Okay, good evening. The Design Review Board public meeting of September 11th, 2014 is called to order. In remembrance of the tragedies of September 11th, we'd like to start the meeting with a moment of silence. Thank you. Please refrain from talking amongst yourselves during the Design Review Board meeting, and please turn off or put on vibrate all cell phones at this time. If you need to talk, please leave the meeting room. Anyone who wishes to speak, including applicants, is asked to completely fill out one of the speaker cards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff. Anyone who wishes to be re-noticed about a project must completely fill out one of the postcards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff to receive notice of subsequent hearings. Current Design Review Board agendas are available by visiting our website at www.glendaleca.gov. A handout describing the procedures of the meeting, possible board decisions, and Design Review Board appeals is available at the table by the front door. Please note that appeals must be filed within 15 calendar days of the Design Review Board decision date. The chairperson may reorder agenda items at his or her discretion, and that will be discussed in just a moment. First item on the agenda is roll call. At this time, I'd also like to introduce our newest Design Review Board member, Mr. Arthur Charchian.
Welcome. Thank you.
Welcome. So in terms of a roll call, board member... As we're getting... Board Member Charchian.
Present.
Board Member Malikian.
Here.
Board Member Mardian.
Here.
Board Member Simonian.
Present.
Chair Palmer.
Here.
Thank you. Report regarding posting of the agenda. Forgive me. The agenda for this meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall at or before 5 p.m. on September 4th, 2014. Next item on the agenda is oral communications. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda, and I believe there are no oral communication cards, which brings us to staff announcements. Due to the fact that Chair Palmer has to recuse herself from the first item on tonight's agenda, which would be for 1631 Capistrano, we are taking items out of order this evening, and we will be starting off the meeting with the adoption of the minutes from the previous meeting, simply in order to have a quorum for adoption of those meetings. So, in regards to the meetings for July 10th, 2014, board members Mardian, Palmer, and Simonian were all present. Is there a motion to adopt the minutes from July the 10th?
Go ahead.
I move to adopt the minutes.
Okay, I have a motion by board member Simonian
Second.
and a second by Mr. Board member Mardian. In terms of roll call, board member Mardian.
Yes.
Board member Simonian.
Yes.
Chair Palmer.
Yes.
The motion passes 3-0. And next we have the approval of the minutes from July the 24th. And again, board members Mardian, Palmer, and Simonian were present. So is there a motion to approve the minutes of July the 24th?
I'll make a motion to approve July 24th.
I'll second it.
Okay. In terms of, we have a motion by board member Mardian, a second by board member Simonian. In terms of a roll call, board member Mardian,
Yes.
Simonian,
Yes.
and Chair Palmer.
Yes.
Motion passes to approve the minutes of July the 24th. Okay, so now we go to the items on tonight's agenda. We have two items, and taking things out of order would be the first case then to be heard would be the project at 532 through 536 West Elk Avenue. And at this point, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Chair Palmer.
And if there are no other questions at this point, Mr. Duong, would you synopsis?
Thank you, Chairperson Palmer, and good evening, board members. As you mentioned, the first item before you is case number 1408491, located at 532 through 536 West Elk Avenue. This is a first-time submittal for final review. The applicant is proposing to demolish 2 existing single-family residences and detached garages in order to construct a new 2- and 3-story, 6-unit multifamily residential building with 15 parking spaces in a semi-subterranean parking garage. The project site will be comprised of 2 adjoining lots, totaling 12,500 square feet and located within the R2250 zone. The properties located at 532 and 536 West Elk were developed in 1921 in the craftsman style. One building is 872 square feet. The second building is 1,660 square feet. And although these 2 buildings were constructed many years ago, they have been modified through the years, so they are not eligible. They're not historic buildings or eligible for listing, and that has been determined by the historic preservation planner. The subject site is rectangular in shape and is surrounded by single-family homes as well as multifamily buildings. There are no protected trees on the subject site. The proposed project will be comprised of 4 2-bedroom units and 2 3-bedroom units in townhouse configuration. And the parking garage will be comprised of 6 enclosed garages, while the other 3 will be in open parking configuration. The buildings will be 2 of the buildings will be located fronting the street, as depicted on the elevation, while the 3rd building will be located towards the back along the rear property line. However, although the building is seen as 3 separate buildings, they are joined by common open spaces via at the rear of the buildings. So essentially, they're
These?
yes. On the second level. They're private balconies. I'm sorry, I said
Okay.
common. I misspoke. They're private balconies, yes. So they're linked. All the 3 building forms will be linked by the private balconies on the second level towards the rear. In terms of yards and usable open spaces, the proposed project will be providing various locations throughout the lot, as you can see, to meet the common open space requirement. At the rear corners, both sides, east and west corner of the property, there will be a courtyard between the buildings and additional common open space adjoining the front setback that is required also. In regards to the additional open space, because the project is proposing will be gaining 1 additional unit by virtue of combining the 2 lots. The zoning code requires that the project provide an additional 1,100 square feet of common open space, and that is adjoining the front setback.
Excuse me for interrupting you, Mr. Moore, but based on my calculation, he gains 2 by combining, not 1.
The lot size is 12,500, so if you were to pursue the density bonus based on lot width, that would be 1 unit for every 1,800 square feet of lot area.
Is it wider than 90 feet, so it should be 1,000, right?
No, this is R2250.
It's 2250,
It goes
yes, it's
down to
18.
1250. I
It's
see.
1,800, yeah. So it'll be 6 units.
Because he's a lot 2.7 per lot. I mean, per lot, I'm talking about per,
If you were to look at the lot separately,
yeah. 6,200 something.
yes, 6,250. If you were to pursue density bonus,
Okay,
you wouldn't be allowed to if you're going to develop 1 lot
I
separately.
understand,
Yes.
But based on my, I think he's getting 2 units if he combines, with this calculation, not 1. But again, that's,
Well, I'm taking 12,500 divided by 1,800 for,
6.94.
yes, but we round units down. That's why it's 6. So if he's going to develop this by code, he would get 5 units, but he's proposing 6. So there's a net gain of 1 unit.
Okay. Thank you.
In terms of mass and scale, staff believe that the project is successful in achieving an appropriate mass and scale by virtue of breaking up the buildings in 3 building forms and also placing the 2-story building volumes towards the street and then having a higher 3-story buildings towards the back. And also providing separation between the building also allows the project to have a reasonable mass and scale. Additionally, the project incorporates a lot of receding and projecting volumes, as well as various materials to help break the building volumes that way as well. In terms of design and detailing, the project, as you can see, is designed in a very contemporary style, and that is further supported by the clean, simple lines and volumes, as well as the materials and fenestration, as well as window types that's being used. The applicant is proposing to use smooth stucco, as well as metal siding and aluminum windows. And the stucco will be differentiated via 2 different colors, so to help breaks up and provide additional interest to the overall visual appearance of the building. Overall, staff supports the project with just one condition, and that condition is that the miter joint should be utilized at all corners where the sheet metal siding meet. And that concludes my presentation. Oh, and also I would like to state that we did not receive any comments in terms of the design of the project, but staff did receive a phone call from a constituent questioning whether the buildings are historic.
Questions?
Yes.
Yeah, I do have several. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I may be technical on zoning, but the wall heights on the subterranean deck, can you clarify that for us? Or he's building up the grade all around the property.
So specifically, what's your question concerning the wall heights?
If you look at the sections, the sides and the back is built up. You have this podium that is sticking up in the back because the property slopes
A little.
the back. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but our zoning says the deck cannot exceed 3 feet average top of curb, and our walls cannot exceed 6.5 feet, or 3.5 feet above the deck. I'm looking at these sections correctly, they're about 4 to 5 feet in the back.
The top of curb is measured at the front of the street.
Then the deck can stick out 3 feet?
Yes,
More than that? Wow. Okay.
That's been allowed in the past, so this is consistent. It would not be an anomaly in terms of...
So don't we have a maximum height of that wall on the side property line? What's the maximum height?
You can have in terms of retaining wall,
Retaining and whatever the guardrail you have on top.
in the multi-family and single-family zone, that's not hillside.
Okay.
The retaining wall requirements are quite different from a hillside property, so you can go up to 5.5 feet.
How about the guardrail on top? Don't you count that?
That's not retaining wall. That has a separate requirement.
So I could technically have 8.5 feet of wall, solid wall, in the back?
Without a step or anything?
Well, you can, it's measured, 6 feet is measured off of your property, so it's 6 feet. So if they're allowed to have certain wall height.
The other question, rather, this is maybe engineering, but when I was out there, the ISIS project had aligned the street with dedication. Is that something that this property will be faced with, street dedication? The curb has been aligned on both sides.
I have not been told by Public Works that that's required.
The reason I'm asking, because it may change the design. Because based on my observation in the field, there was, both sides of the street were widened, or starting to widen. And was there a reason for these planters to be, or maybe I should ask the applicant, the planters to be depressed even though he's building it up?
At the front setback?
I don't know if it's proper for me to ask this question, Madam Chair. That's fine.
Go ahead.
At the side setbacks. It's creating like little pockets.
We're looking at the section.
In the common open space area?
On the side yards.
Not sure whether
yards
that's being
are great.
proposed, but the zoning code is silent in terms of depressed planters along the rear setback.
Okay.
Just,
Yeah, on grade.
just for clarification
Yeah, well,
purposes,
See this blue line?
and based on previous discussion by the design review, there has been comments made in terms of having the open space be a flat grade. So by depressing the planter areas, you are thereby creating a flat surface level.
But the parking lot, or the parking is in on the sides.
The parking is in from the
It's
side.
on grade.
See, if you look at these sections, he's creating a pocket here that doesn't, becomes a planter, build-up planter. You know what I'm
That's right
talking-
here.
Correct, and this would be cross-section number 1.
Right. See, this is on grade, why should it be,
See that blue line I drew?
yeah,
That's the parking, so out here it'd be on
it's on
grade.
grade. But you see what they
I
did?
saw that. I saw that. I have a question on that.
Okay,
Perhaps we can have
In
the
other words,
applicant
it's
answer
a
that.
closed bottom planter?
Yes.
The way it's depicted.
yes.
I wonder if it's for Susam section to capture and reuse. That's what,
Well, we can ask the,
We can ask that.
Also, for clarification in regards to walls along the interior, anything over 6.5 feet in height above the adjacent grade has to be 50%
Open.
open, correct. So it would not be able to have a solid wall adjacent
Basically,
to
you can
the
have a
adjacent.
guardrail or railing.
Correct.
iron.
But you would be able to go ahead and continue that guardrail further up to either 8.5 feet, provided that 50% of anything above 6.5 feet would remain open.
what is that perimeter wall?
I believe it's block.
Is there
Just standard block?
We can ask.
You can
ask
ask,
the
yeah, we can get clarification from.
I have a question
Is there
for
any
staff.
Other questions?
Yes, I do. Can I hear what the stand is on having a common outdoor space in the front yard as far as the staff is concerned, and what, I mean, is it something that we're going to start accepting? Because we haven't accepted this. I mean, we've got one project in the past, creating a common outdoor space in the front yard, and that's specifically, if I can hear what.
Yeah, this common open space that you're referring to is specifically spelled out in the zoning code that it needs to be, it needs to adjoin the front setback, minimum 20 feet back from the street.
So if it's wider than the 90 feet, is that where it
Yes,
is triggered?
exactly. If you're pursuing the density bonus, anytime you pursue a density bonus, the extra common open space that required needs to adjoin the front setback.
Okay. Second question. I understand by counting the numbers and the number of bedrooms, we get the correct number of parking spaces. But theoretically, the 3 bedrooms should have a 2.5 parking space, correct?
Correct.
And thus, you're take it up one level if it was just on its own. And I understand if it was an open parking space, you would go and say you have 6 units, 2 of them are 3 bedrooms, so it's 2.5 parking, so total of 15. But now we have individual parking spaces. So both of those units are going to share one parking space just because they both add up 2.5? Is that how it
That
works? Or does it go to 3 and 3?
No, because the zoning code cannot require somebody to provide more than the minimum required by standards. However, this question came up and I posed it to the applicant, how you going to divvy the parking spaces up, especially the one that are in an open arrangement. What I, from my past experience, is one way to address that is through a CC&R, where possibly the largest unit could have the three space.
Two equal large units.
It boils down to addressing it through the CCR, which the city does not have a role in. So it's up to the developer. As long as our role is to look at whether the number of parking spaces in totality is being provided based on bedroom count in this case.
Okay.
You lead me to a question that I circled in my report. It's not all 3 bedrooms.
Yes, there are 4 2-bedroom units
And
two
two
3 bedrooms.
Yes. Okay.
So, but
Because
if
the
you add
report
those
says all
numbers,
three bedrooms.
2.5,
Yeah,
2.5.
that was a mistake. I forgot to clarify.
Well, yeah, I know what you're getting. I've asked that question several times. How do you?
Any further questions? Nope.
I mean, that just puts the burden back on the applicant to make it easier.
No, I understand.
Than you
I mean, the way I see it is that, it's completely fine when you have an open, but when you have a private garages and if the code says that this unit is required to have 2.5 parking space and you are providing a private garage, I would assume that you would have that additional parking to that 2.5 attached to that garage. So you would technically have one more additional for each of those units, but if you count those numbers, then you're right. I mean, you need 15, so, okay.
Okay, no further questions. I'm going to open the public hearing. The applicant, Steve Shin, if you would come up and give us your name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Steve Shin from Salmon Design, representing the owners. My address is 2500 Wilshire Boulevard, Suite 834, Los Angeles 90057. First, I'd like to thank the planner for his good explanation of the project that we're doing. I think we have a great project on hand. As you can see, the existing homes they're from 1921s. If you've been there, the buildings are pretty run down. When we were designing this, we've kept several things in mind, and we've tried to approach each direction and try to address each of the issues. One of which was aesthetics. We made sure that whatever we're building, whatever we're designing, fit the neighborhood. We believe that with the ISIS projects nearby and the character of Glendale, we believe the design that we're going for fits the neighborhood very well. It provides, basically providing a luxurious-looking multifamily residence in the city. Second part that we looked at was making sure that whenever you're designing a multifamily unit, always the issue is amassing. The building's going to look too big. It's going to look like it's too crowded. So one of the things that we did during the design was breaking up the building. It's further helped by the fact that the building is set further back, with all the breaks and depressions and all the angles in the building. We're able to make the building look smaller than it actually is. And on top of that, with all the landscaping proposed, we think that the effect of massing will be minimized if somebody looks at the project. It's going to look like a very nice, luxurious housing without having that overbearing look. The other is the actual living condition. We believe that with the spaces provided, even with inside, the living quarters are very spacious, both inside and out. And with that, if you have any questions for me, I'd gladly answer any questions you have.
I had a
Thank you.
question, Madam Chair, if I may. When I was looking at the sections, back to the section again, I'm sorry, the ceiling height seems a little short because you have handicapped access to that parking structure, correct?
Yes, we do.
And if I read your sections correctly, you have finished floor to top of deck is 9 feet. And, handicap access, the reason I'm saying you might have an issue with the height. Because, 8'2" clearance plus plumbing plus, all the sewer lines. Concrete deck, yeah, you may need another 1.5 feet. Correct me if I'm wrong.
We should have enough space. The plumbing lines and stuff like that. I mean, that can always be redirected away from that area. But during the construction, if there is an issue, we'll always come back to the city with a revised plan.
Because that's going to affect the height and the deck height also.
Whatever alternative we propose, I mean, we're going to keep it so that it doesn't exceed any of the codes.
My past experience, you can barely make it work with 9 feet clearance from the bottom of the deck when you have a subterranean garage. But I'm just bringing it out for you.
We'll take another look at it.
Any other questions?
No.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Looking at the massing and the materials utilized, there are instances, of course, in the front and on the sides where you have stucco. They're depicted right now as different color. And then, of course, next to that is the sheet metal. How are you dealing with those materials as they abut one another? Are there some sort of recesses, riglets? What is the methodology that you use?
We'll have to, for the exact finish, we'll probably consult with our interior designers. But between different stuccos, we'll probably use the joint to break apart the two different materials.
I'm more interested in also your answer towards how, for example, in the front, you have the sheet metal, corrugated metal.
Yes.
Siding, and this abuts the stucco. So what does this connection look like?
Do you mind if I bring up our designer? He's probably better suited to answer that question.
He'll have to introduce himself and then fill out a card.
Hello, my name is Myung-Jung Lee. I'm a designer. So, can you please point out one more time which area exactly you're referring?
Sure. The question is overall, we have certain instances where stucco is abutting the sheet metal siding. For instance, here on the sides of the building. And let's say when we look at this wall, it's basically a straight wall with no undulation.
Oh, okay. Because I think you're more concerning about the articulating material between the flat area. So I guess you can provide a fire riglet, so you can provide a nice joint. So probably if you can make the one different material sticks out from the other material, so maybe you can sticks out another like 1 or 2 inches. So that'll look articulated much better.
Sure. Yes, it's a concern because obviously we try to avoid straight walls.
Right.
And so we always try to just kind of visualize it where you put color aside because the building can always be painted a different color. And as such, the undulation and the elevation and so forth is very important. So I just noticed there's these straight walls, quite a bit of it. And really with the use of color and differentiation of materials, you've achieved some variety and interest. However, those connections are very important.
Right. But for example, from the back side, which is the south side, obviously it's a straight wall, but for interior purpose, it's hard to make it articulate with the wall. So we have to go with a straight wall. Then I decided to go with the different materiality instead of using the different color.
Okay.
Okay.
Make sure you fill out a card afterwards.
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you.
Before I ask my questions, can you do me a favor and go over there on the plan and just show me where you're cutting your sections?
I was looking for those as well.
So I have two different sections, one cutting through here, and the other one is long section, which is cutting through here.
Can I mark this up?
Yes, sure.
The other one is where? Which way are they looking?
So this one, section of this drawing is cross section. This way is a cross section, the other one is longitudinal section.
It doesn't really matter which way you're looking.
So since you're doing that, the cross-section with the depressed enclosed platters,
Oh, actually, you know what? I think I made a mistake on this drawing. The structure has to stop here. And
'Cause they are
then,
in grade.
yeah, the rest of it will be just natural planting instead of
Right.
providing same.
that's what I thought.
Yeah, but that's something you can provide in instead of providing the same block.
Is this project exempt from the SUSUMP requirements from the grading department? With the filtration of water?
I doubt it. I happened to meet with the engineer before.
Yes.
And then he's saying, look, it may look exempted. But after design review meeting, I had to go back to the engineers and clarify if it's exempted or not.
So before you walk away, can you explain to me then about the landscape drawing in the south base of the property? How does your deck that you just showed us in the section, and how does that landscape work between the patio and the property line? Because it's
It's on grade.
He's building up the grade.
you got a deck over there.
Well, he's encroaching part of it, then he's building up the rest at the property line.
Deck is 5 feet away from this property line, so we can have a natural planting between property line.
So based on that drawing that I'm looking at over there, you got, okay, isn't this a patio?
This patio belongs to these two units.
Right. So
Which is here.
so you're saying that this dimension is the same dimension as that?
He's taking up the building line, I think.
Oh, actually, I was cutting
Right
maybe
there at the
here.
building line.
I see.
So when you're cutting here, it's
further up.
more.
I
Yes.
see. Okay. All right.
That's why it's good to have section cuts.
Yes.
Symbols.
So I may have to provide more section.
Do you have any other questions? Anybody?
I had a question. Where are your AC units? I saw some of them on the roof plan, but you have some in the balconies. How are you accessing those units?
Oh, which
Your rooftop units, mechanical units.
Oh, we need to provide the access from the inside, which will be.
How about those balconies that you, for the back units?
These ones?
Yeah.
Oh, that's access from the these two units at the second.
You're showing windows.
Oh, this one?
Oh, no, this one right here. Here.
Oh, you mean how can you access to
Yeah,
this
how are you
unit?
going to access them?
Oh, the sliding window, so you can access through the window.
But that's a balcony, and on the outside of the balcony is
No,
the-
actually, it's not usable balcony. That's a space for the mechanical. Because the
It's
rear
open underneath?
No, it's
Yes.
under.
under the same floor level. Because rear two units are 3-story building, so we don't want to have a mechanical unit on top of a 3-story building. So it's better to have a mechanical unit at the lower level. Then you,
So it's behind a wall.
yes, behind the wall. It will be screened.
Well, where would it be in the building massing? Is that, I guess, is that depicted on the site plan, on the top right, that rendering?
You know, into that?
Is it, but can you, where, does the AC unit show on that, in this rendering over there?
Yeah, this one you're looking from the street view.
Yes,
This one is the same street view from east side.
I realize that. And where are the AC units in your renderings?
Oh, you mean?
Yeah, where, in the massing, where would they sit in the renderings?
Yes. The roof plan, we are putting mechanical unit on top of this roof, which is sitting here.
Uh-huh.
Here, it should be screened by the this.
I think the question is for the back unit. Those are the back units.
Oh yeah,
That area? All I'm asking is this AC unit. This
okay.
right.
That's it's a little bit hard to see. which is sitting here. There's a little smaller box.
That's what I
thrown
thought it
out.
was,
Yeah. So actually, it's hard to see from the street level.
So you're gonna have something like a 3'6" parapet around?
Yes, exactly.
You see on the elevation on the side.
It'll be sitting. Yes,
Behind it.
it'll be covered by the wall.
So, explain to me what these openings are. And you have a window here and you have an opening, which is this. What is?
Originally, I provide interior space here, but thought if floor space is too big, so I decided to cut it out. Then I thought about, oh, why don't you just keep this exterior wall as a nice articulation of a building massing?
And my last question is that most of the structures that you have, back structure, pretty much behind this point, it's all symmetrical. But when you get into the front, in the plan, it looks symmetrical.
Right.
But when you look at the elevation, I mean, was it just random, or you just felt like doing that, or was it
You mean
something?
even though it's identical and elevation look different? Is that what you?
Well, no. What I'm saying is it's symmetrical. It's identical. And like you look at this, it's like basically taking this and mirroring this, and you take this volume, you repeat it on the other side. The face of this half is same as the other half, but when you get to the front plan view, it's the same.
Oh, I
But
see
when
what
you
you're
get to this, it's just completely different.
Okay. Originally, I provide exactly same flipped elevation, but I happened to discuss with planner Jay, the city planner, design planner, and then he suggested why don't you have a little different articulation for the front elevation. Then when you're standing on street, either one look exactly same. So he suggested that idea, so I thought it's a good idea. So even though floor plan is the same, so I decided to go with a little different articulation by providing different look. So it'll look a little different building.
These canopies that you have, these projections, but on the roof plan, it shows like a trellis. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's underneath that.
Oh yeah, that one. That area probably I have.
It's all, I mean, it's the whole roof plan is showing trellises, but when I'm looking at the plan, it's
Where is it in the roof plan?
that area here.
Okay.
That one probably I need to study more, which either go with the trace or just solid roof.
Because you have an AC unit underneath it, let's say, in this area, right?
Oh,
And
yes.
you're saying it's not accessible, and then there's a trellis of it.
Oh, you know what? Then that's it's not drawn correct. Then it should go away.
There is no trellis there.
Actually no. I thought about the trace at first time, and I thought it's better provided with a little solid canopy.
Yeah, because you would have added some massing to that corner.
Yeah.
Is there any reason, I think, on units 1 and 2, you have 3-foot balconies, which really aren't usable spaces, and on unit 3, you have 2 large balconies and a private patio?
Oh, you mean at the front?
I'm just saying there's a big discrepancy between units 3 and the 1 and 2, because there's really no usable private space on units.
Needs to do that anyway because front units don't have private patios. Those are his private patios. And they have to be 4 foot minimum wide, no?
But it's not.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's not.
Oh, actually, I didn't realize that the minimum.
They have to be 40 square feet.
Okay, then maybe I can extend another bit.
If you're allowed to project, because there's only a certain amount you can project into the front setback.
Yes. So you're not encroaching front setback. Our front setback is only like 20 feet from the property line, so we still have enough space.
Are there any other questions?
So you might be able.
Yes,
Madam Chair, I
go
thought we were going to ask about the brick and also the landscaping on the side of the property and get clarification on the type of block that's going to be used. Is it simple block?
Oh, well, we can also consider any split block, or either you can just put on stucco on it. Either way, you can make it project much better. You can provide a stucco.
And earlier you indicated that those encapsulated planters on the side of your cross-section, those were drawn in error,
Right.
right? So,
I believe so, yes.
that's going to be a planter straight to the natural soil surface. How shallow are you planning on planting the I believe it's bambusa multiplex is what you have over there. How shallow are you planning on planting those along the side there? Because you're not going to plant it on grade. Well, the question is, are you planting on grade?
They're on grade.
They're on grade?
They're on grade.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So that's a plant that grows about 6 to 8 feet, correct?
I believe. I think that's more appropriate question for the landscape designer, but he isn't present here today.
Okay.
Here, do you have any interior elevation? The courtyard?
Unfortunately not, but you can refer
If you are,
that the 3D from the aerial view.
Eventually,
it seems
they
to me
provide those.
that you're looking at 3 feet.
I already discussed this project many times with the
And from the
design
street,
planner
yeah.
Jay.
Are those walls in the middle?
3 foot.
Courtyard?
Down that
Elevation here.
14-foot middle
About a
throat?
5-foot elevation here, plus you got a plant that grows 8 feet.
Are these straight from the ground level up to?
Pretty much.
Screen center.
That's what they're doing.
But when you look at the second floor, we have a set-in balcony, so it won't reflect when you're standing here. It still has some articulation about
Is
it.
the whole, well, I guess it's depicted somewhat in this rendering, but you're showing some sort of if you would, you're showing a shadow line here. So does this, because I'm seeing a shadow line right there, because this green is different than this green.
Well, actually, I thought it's a good idea to provide a little or this little projection, like 1 foot projection.
Is that, so the entire second floor projects? Because they both have a 14-foot dimension.
Oh, no, I'm talking about just, what is it? Just projection only, not the building project. I'm
Sort of
just
an
attaching-
awning or, well, some
Yeah,
canopy.
some sort of, yes,
yeah.
canopy, like 1 foot as a, design standpoint.
And what material would that be?
That's basically stucco, underneath it will be stucco with a sheet metal fascia. And we can put some lighting underneath.
Mr. Simonian,
Yes.
as I'm looking at the drawings, I'm looking at the first floor where there's a dimension of 13-foot 1 from the projection of the living room to the dining room. This is on the front elevation, parallel to the street. It's basically the measurement of the dining room
Which
width.
sheet are you at?
The first floor plan.
Okay.
It appears it's measured as 13-foot 1 from basically the dimension of the dining room. You following me?
Yes.
And then onto the second floor, at a same dimension from that projection, which in this case is a balcony out to the exterior wall that parallels that courtyard, is 13-foot 9. So maybe it,
You're
Correct,
talking
but
about
then-
the front.
right. So
But
it
then-
appears that might be an
but then the
8-foot, an
middle-
8-inch
Correct. But
cantilever.
what was confusing me is there's a 14-foot dimension on both levels 1 and 2
Okay.
between the buildings. So
So maybe the architect could explain.
that's what
where
I'm
that
asking
8
him.
inch- yeah.
Yeah, walls goes
I was
straight up.
asking him if in fact it was what you're describing.
But the second floor
something.
cantilevers into that
Because the drawings is.
courtyard
Yeah.
a few inches to get that shadow effect.
Correct, correct. And so, but you're indicating that it's more of a canopy.
Exactly. Actually, I think that's a good point. I thought about projecting the second level another feet to the courtyard, but instead I just try to make it straight with a just simple projection with because we didn't need that many switch upstairs.
And so does that mean the floor plans need to be adjusted somehow?
No, it's still 14 feet,
Right.
and here still the same 14 feet.
Right, but then, as Mr. Lewis is indicating, there's the difference between the 13.1 and the 13.
That's he's talking in the front. That's just the front setback is moved.
No, he's referring to, so we have 13.9 plus 14 feet, and then we have 13.1 plus 14 feet. So,
Oh, I see. Maybe
Oh, I
that
see.
has not lined up exactly for the CAD itself. So when you look at this dimension, this is referring the outside wall. This is referring the inside wall. That makes another like 6 inches, but probably 3 inch. Maybe there was just
So-
misdrawn.
Sticking to this area and just staying here, and then if you can clarify this for me. So look at the perspective that you have there. And based on the perspective, you have this bump out, which is this. Correct?
Right.
So the perspective is showing a bump out, and then you have the same bump out, but it's a different form. It grows taller. So
Right.
then we come to the second floor, right? So the second floor and that bump out, that becomes a balcony, right?
Right.
And then over here, this still stays
Still
as a
a
balcony,
balcony,
but it carries up above, right?
Right. So we're having additional
Look
wall
at your
the
roof
side.
plan. So your roof plan now, that bump out, based on your perspective, it came up over the roof, right?
Right.
Why is this roof over there, where you're on your perspective, the entire building is pushed back?
Or maybe a roof plan has not shown correctly. So supposed to be set in. Maybe that was
Okay, so it needs to go in,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
How much, so, may I see that?
Yes, sure.
So, is this, so this is sheet metal facade over here, this corrugated metal facade.
Right.
It's set back, what is that dimension over there?
That is about 18 inches, I believe.
And so there's this kind of a stucco shape that's doing this, and then this is straight? These two are on the same plane?
Yes, it is. With a different color.
Different color. And then the riglet would kind of do in this area.
Nice joint, providing nice joint.
And then you got to worry about when you're following the canopy, how the riglet transfers into the canopy. Maybe it could be the bottom of the canopy.
That's why it might be better to provide a little projection. So instead of providing just a simple private lit.
A simple projection.
Like one for projection of awning.
Madam Chair, I'm asking one more question. Why do you have the ramp straight up from the curb?
Oh, yeah, because
Why can't you make it parallel to, because you're going to have railings on that ramp.
because the reason is to get to the parking level.
I understand, but I'm
We
saying,
will
why
make
is it
it-
a straight shot? And I want to ask staff about the projection of the ramp in that fashion. I thought, you could project 4 feet parallel to the building, 14 feet in length. This one is projecting straight through that 35 feet in the front setback, and we're going to have railings. Is that something
Ramp along the driveway.
along the handicap ramp?
Oh no, actually
That's-
the ramp at the
The-
left side,
The left side.
it's a maximum 30-inch height. It won't
Okay.
have a railing.
What's the percentage on that slope?
That's the maximum.
1 to 12?
1 to 12.
You need a railing.
But when it's not over 30 inches, you don't need it.
This is a handicap ramp you're talking about. I'm going to read those, when we
Okay,
start.
I'll just go
Yeah.
through the plan.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I have one more speaker, Ellen Bergia. Could you give us your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Ellen Murgia. I live at 526 West Elk. I live next door to the proposed project. I have some questions. The street is extremely narrow. We have 3 new buildings on the street with parking, and the parking has gotten worse with the new buildings, with even with their additional parking. There's 2 speed bumps on Elk, and on a wonderful summer evening, you can sit in your yard and it looks like a carousel of up and down carousel horses because of the speed bumps and the traffic. And it's real interesting, the traffic at Christmas for the Galleria. I also have questions about the cleanup of the lead pollution on these properties. If there's going to be cleanup, if it's happened, when it's going to happen, how long these projects will last. I've lived through a project next door to me, which was like having a 4.5 earthquake every morning when they started. I lived through the ISIS, which across the street, was extremely careful with their employees and their work, but still managed to have a couple flat tires because of excessive nails being about. I'm just curious as to how long this is going to take, how much parking that's going to be required, and more parking if it's possible type thing. And is the pollution, the lead pollution on the grounds, been cleaned up?
Unfortunately, this particular board is going to address the design itself, and you have some valid questions, and you can also ask staff to put you in touch with people once the project goes through and they are making recommendations for that project if you have concerns. But our board can't address that at this time.
Okay, because I was, like I said, the pollution is really what bothers me. At first, when I learned about it, I thought, oh, it's an old house, there's paint. And turns out the pollution is outside, in the ground, supposedly done by a tenant. So that's my questions.
Unfortunately, we can't answer those for you.
Okay, and who do I speak to about?
Staff can direct you to someone to talk to about that. Okay?
Do I talk to you now?
After.
You want to wait? I have no more speakers. I'm going to close the public session. Would you like to start?
Well, thank you for bearing with us as we went through all our questions on design and whatnot. It's an interesting project just because of the large apartment complex that's been built already in that area. Already had some sort of a say in the architectural context as far as design is concerned and whatnot. There was already some precedent set with the existing apartment buildings that were built there. And so as that street gets developed, it's going to be, of course, improved with new multifamily buildings. And as such, they're probably going to have a contemporary architectural style to them. And so the architectural style and the modern architectural style, I believe, is the right approach to be more compatible with the existing, but and also really to be in line with the 21st century. The main concerns that I had was that we have straight walls, and these walls really are against some of our design guidelines because we try to promote undulation and articulation in these walls. However, this project is attempting to achieve such interest and variety with the use of color and materials, but at the same time isn't providing substantial recesses and undulation. The front facade, coincidentally, I think has some variation to it, which is nice. I'm concerned about the middle courtyard elevation. It's only 14 feet wide, and so it's somewhat going to have a tunnel feel to it. And on top of that, it's just straight walls going up and down minus those canopies. So I think that's an important one to study and understand because we don't have elevations to look into that. Furthermore, on the east side, we have a similar scenario as well, where we have a straight wall really that's really differentiated with just really materials that are in line with one another. So I'd like to, depending which direction we take, for the applicant to really study those connections between even the stucco members and also the corrugated metal. If possible, it'd be nice to actually have some undulation at those points. And it does create much more interest in the facade. Also, it creates shadows and whatnot, so I think it's important to assess. For overall, with the mass and bulk of the building, I think it's successful in the way it's broken up, the project into 3 buildings. And I think it'll further benefit from the undulation as I described. And I think that's going to really help that mass and bulk in breaking it up, is to have that interest. The materials as presented are appropriate for the contemporary use, the colors of the stucco and also the aluminum windows, and also the brake metal are appropriate and are good use of it. And but it seems as though it needs to be tightened up a bit. So the project needs to be tightened up a bit, but the general direction is appropriate, I believe. And we just need to work out some of those finer details. And there's, I guess, more thoughts I could then circle around. But that's a more general impression. Since I went first, that's kind of my approach as of now. But we could discuss things in a bit.
Mardian?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have the same thoughts that Mr. Simonian mentioned. I concur with his comments. I do feel the building is going into the right direction as far as design. And I do agree that further undulation or breaks horizontal in the building is needed, especially on the side of the building. And I had the same concern earlier how these materials meet. And I think if we break the building further, those issues will be eliminated. But I do have concerns, like I said. The reason I have these concerns, I don't think I have a full package of drawing that matches. There's a lot of discrepancies between each seat. So I like the direction of the design, the materials, the colors. I think it's in the right direction. I need to see more refined drawings that match. I don't have interior elevation. I think you're concerned with those interior elevations. We have 3 elevations that are missing on the plans, and the concerns I also have is the front. Although you have a nice front setback, the common area is done in the setback because of the width of the lot. But that area needs to be bermed up or articulated a little more in the landscaping, and I have a feeling that ramp should be, or not feeling, I don't think the ramp should be straight up from the street to the building. It should be horizontal, parallel, I should say, to the building, not perpendicular. Then we're going to, if this is a handicap ramp, based on my experience, you're going to need railings, and I don't think with this kind of buildings, railings will be just sticking out of nowhere for this. In the front setback. But I do like the direction of the design and the materials, and those items that I mentioned earlier, the AC units and things like that. The reason I mentioned that because those are part of the building, and they need to be accessible. They need to be, provided in locations that are not going to be difficult to maintain. And the courtyard, it needs a little more help in the courtyard, make it interesting. Right now it's just a walkway leading to those units. But I do like the landscaping that he's provided. He's set the building. The concept of the project, attached garages, private garages, I think it's good. And this, he's got landscaping that are on grade. And with the elimination of these pits that he's created, he can have mature trees that will survive longer. With that, I'd like to hear from my other colleagues.
Mr. Maliki?
So I'm glad that the applicant has chosen to go in this direction. Obviously, we have a precedent, as you mentioned, across the street, and I think it's definitely a welcome addition to the area. And I prefer to see this rather than other styles that would be contradicting to the ISIS project across the street. The concern that I have with this type of projects are a lack of attention to details and lack of attention to all the components that makes this style of architecture more prominent and more successful. And I started to touch upon some of the, started asking the designer about certain, decisions that they had to make and why and certain things happen. For me, to make this project a more successful project, I think a lot more thought has to go into not only on the drawings, and I think drawing proper presentation and drawings, I think it starts helping you to understand the conditions that you're creating for yourself and start addressing it as on the plan, and you can't just come and say, well, we'll deal with it during the construction, or we'll deal. This is where we have to deal with. This is where we have to deal with the design of it. Obviously code issues and other things we don't have to deal with right now. You're going to deal with during the plan check. Like Mardian mentioned about the clearance. It's 8'2", if not 9 feet, if not more. You put the handicap parking at the end. In order for you to access that, you're probably going to end up having more of a ramp, which will impact your front unit parking spaces. Therefore, your retaining walls will get greater than certain height in the front setback and so on and so forth. You have to deal with those things, thus affecting your landscape area or open area. But I'm more concerned about an overall and how these materials were used and picked and volumes were created. I understand that we want to use different materials such as the metal cladding and kind of accentuate certain conditions there. I see that at the south elevation you use that metal to create this band that goes within the center of the elevation height. So that's successful. But as you come around, the same material is used above the second, pretty much covering the entire second floor. And it's not doing that on the back building. Then as you come into the front, that material is used to accentuate that volume that is sticking out with the balcony. But then the same volume on the opposite end, it's not used with the same cladding. It's used on the second floor of cladding. So there's a lot of these confusing material selection that you've used in different points and creating different conditions there. For me, a volume, if you're going to accentuate a volume, the same volume conditions should be used, but yet it's a different style. So what I would have done would be probably use this as one element, then this the same kind of a condition, which is the balcony, a volume that is projected, even in the plan looks the same. So I would have probably cladded the same material here, but then pushing this back, maybe a different color or something like that. Then you have conditions like, you're showing roof drains and conditions there that it shows that no thought has gone into it. You have a roof drain, but as you come straight down, you're bringing the roof drain right in front of the front entry. So those are conditions that once you start dealing with the slope of the roof and creating different conditions for yourself, how do you deal with that? Because the reason I started looking at that is because when you look at the back elevation, you got about 4 different roof drains, and then you got this huge one on the side that goes from all the way to the top to the bottom. So it starts becoming this detail that can be used to your benefit, but if it's used properly, if it's used in the proper, a direction of addressing certain conditions that it's already been created by. Then you have elevations that are not really addressing any of the conditions, like for example the lift that you have. How does that lift come about? Where does the planner fall in? Then I started looking at a little bit more, and I started looking at this, and it says 8 feet setback on the second floor. Well, 8 feet setback is minimum, but you got to have an average of 11. So I started thinking, how did they get away with it? By adding this little balcony here. By attaching this gives them this kind of a setback. But what is this really? I mean, is it really doing anything for them? All it's doing is finding a loophole in the system so that they won't have to cut into the second floor level, in my opinion. I think this is you come out, you go straight across and look at a straight wall, which is 12-foot section. And then on the side, you got these gray things. I don't even know what they are. Also, you're calling this as a sheet metal flashing, but then on your roof, you got trellis. Where is it? Yeah. So you got trellis, but then you got this sheet metal flashing. So I'm assuming that these, based on your details that you have here, are canopies based on the elevation, but then on the roof plan, it's trellis. So which is it? Is it trellis or roof? And if it is trellis, if it's cantilevering up, is it really cantilevering that much? Is it coming down on the floor? Is it being braced back into the building? So all of these create an additional detail that will make this project a lot more successful. I still am not sure what this is all about, being everything is, in the shape and the form, in the square shape or the form, but I'm not really sure what this is doing to your project. It's really creating anything that will help the project move, in a positive direction. Then you got all these little areas like conditions there you've created. You got this huge landscape area, but you got this, and then you got this open space. But then as you come in here, but how do you get out? I mean, you created this dead-end space where all these people are facing, but then you're going to use this area for, there's no way of getting out. And I don't even know you can even do this. You got more than 20 feet here. You got a dead-end corridor, so you have to have a secondary exit from there. I don't even know if you can do that or not. So there's a lot of these little things that I see that it's going to, again, I like the project, I like the design of the project, but I think there's a lot of this little elements there that it can make this project a lot more successful. The way they are dealing with details, you got windows right at the edge line of this sheet metal and stucco. How does that detail work in comparison to the windows that are set right in the middle of this metal cladding? Then you got windows that are right at the edge of the bottom and the top of this, right here, to be exact. You got this little condition, then you got this little condition, then you got this condition. So you got all these little conditions there that how do these come together, when you look at the detail.
Mr. Charger?
Yes. Okay. So I want to start off by saying, I think it's kind of sad that these 1920 bungalows have been left in such a dilapidated state in the city of Glendale, where they're now prime targets for redevelopment. With that said, though, I think that the applicants have done a very good job in a conceptual design that fits the neighborhood and the changes in that area. And I think ultimately I will definitely be in support of this project. However, I think that the other council members who have spoken already have kind of surmised it very well. There needs to be some more concrete thinking as to some of these design elements. There are certain great expanses of straight wall. There's over, I think, 75 feet, if I calculated correctly, of block wall with an elevation greater than 4 feet on both sides of the property. There's then vegetation or landscaping above that. I think those need to be revisited with a little bit more thought. Additionally, you lost me at some of the unusable space in this project. Those two balconies, the area that you indicated was for the air conditioning and was not usable space. I think that really affects mass and scale to a certain degree. And lastly, on the handicap ramp, whether or not that railing's going to be required by code or by the planning department or by this body, you should really seriously consider putting in a rail. Because in my field, I'm an attorney, that is something that you'll live with that decision for a long time if God forbid, something happens. And I also want to join in the fact that I don't think it should be a straight shot to the street. I think design-wise, that's, for lack of a better word, unsightly. That's all.
Okay. Well, I agree with the other comments, and I'm going to bring up a few more. That air conditioning spots that we keep talking about, that's an area, it's a master bedroom, and you have a window looking right out on the air conditioning. That window could be brought around and it looks over the second floor of the building in front, so you'd have a good view of the mountains. And you could put a door in there to access that right off of the stairwell. So I think attention to some of those details. You have open space in the front, a lawn area for use as open space, but that's only 8 feet wide. And that front, the rest of the front is in planting that's not usable. That 8 feet is up against living room windows, so I don't see people out there playing right against the windows. So maybe you could revisit that open space in the front. The landscaping where you have the bamboo is really too narrow for bamboo. You might consider another choice of something a little less wide and messy. And you have a tulip tree specified. I would consider something else because that doesn't grow very well here. And I agree with the other comments everybody's made, and I think I would want to see an irrigation plan when we get something back, or if staff wants to review something. I will say I think they've done a good job in minimizing the viewing onto the adjacent neighbors with the side windows. There's not large windows, there's small windows, they're up high. So I think that was a good point. And I just think it'd be nice to increase the balconies on those first and second units to more than just a balcony when there's so much room for the third building. Have any more?
So I have couple more ideas. So I'm going to make a condition to return for redesign, but also I'm going to recommend for them to visit fire department before they come, because I think they may have some issues as far as accessing all around the building in the back area. Planting, I don't know the size of the trees that they're proposing and how big they're going to get. They're pretty much going to be blocking the access from all around. ADA access, I think it's definitely an issue. I think they do have the room to go less than what the ADA requires, and be able to get a slope walkway and eliminate any ramp, any handrails. And start kind of putting some buffers between the ramp and so forth. But one of the things that we missed talking about is the perimeter fencing, and we don't have any options on that. They are creating a fairly large fill on the west elevation, is it west?
South elevation.
No.
South. It's the
west elevation and the south elevation.
It's actually
yes.
all around.
South and west elevation, because it gets a little bit shallower or less of a elevation there on the east. But then they're bringing a staircase up against the property line and bringing it up to that level. So building and safety is probably recommended for them to meet because of bringing the stair right up to the property line. They will have fire access and issues there that they may end up being forced to put at least a 6-foot, if not an 8-foot wall or something in that sense for a fire barrier. So that is recommended for them to talk about and see the building and safety. So other than that, I think I want to hear some of the conditions before.
If I may, Madam Chair, add, and they should check with engineering as far as the street alignment, whether or not there's going to be in this particular case. Is that something, if it should be, I'm just, actually cautioning the architect. I mean, he doesn't have to do it. But if, if it changes, then it changes the design.
They need to.
Want to read the comments that we have?
That's one. Yeah. This is.
Okay, staff heard from the board that overall the design choice is appropriate in this neighborhood since there is already a precedent for a contemporary design. However, a number of board members expressed concerns about the straight walls and that there's a need for more undulations in the wall, especially on the side elevations, and as well as courtyard. And there needs to be more attention afforded to how the colors, materials, and the detailing, the connection, and how they're used and meet. There was a concern expressed about the interior courtyard being that it's only 14 feet wide and it may create a tunnel effect as one travels through it.
I want to comment on that. It's less than 14 feet once you get planters, but all the common areas in the courtyards are just a narrow, same width. There's no undulation within the courtyard as well as the building.
Okay, so that's another concern. And again, study the connection between the stucco and the metal, the sheet metal. There needs to be more tightening up between on the detailing and fine-tuning on the details. Let's see. And there was a comment about possibly differentiating between the additional common open space in the front by berming some portions of the landscape. That the board questions the design of the handicap ramp, that it may be better or best in this case to be parallel to the street and not perpendicular to the street.
Or you could do, like, he could do really, because he's got such a long setback, like you mentioned.
He could get creative.
He could get creative, and as he's berming it, he can.
More of the common area.
Common area, yeah.
8.33%. Handicap ramp will require rating.
Yeah.
So we cannot have railing in front, right?
Within the first 20 feet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if he can clear the first 20 feet, then...
So you can't have that. So therefore, the only way that they can do that, based on what they've done, is to reduce the slope to less than 5%.
Then you can do away without handrails.
You can berm up or do anything.
Again, there's multiple comments about the lack of detail and attention to detail, because for a contemporary design to be successful the way it should be, the detailing and the connection of materials and how each one is treated and the decision behind that needs to be addressed fully. And there's questions about the location of the roof drains affecting the design, and that the location could be used to benefit the overall design, and how the lift works and affects the areas around the lift. There was also comment about the shed roof and how that fits into the overall scheme of the design, because in other volumes you see rectangular shapes. There's dead end space in the interior courtyard that may be a code issue. And how the window at the edge of the sheet metals will be addressed, and as well as with the stucco. Overall, there needs to be more concrete thinking on the design elements. Again, there was comment on the long expanses of wall, particularly the block wall that's along the property line by board member Churchian. Again, railing for the handicap ramp may not meet code if it's in the setback. And Madam Chair Palmer addressed concerns about the width of the planter where bamboos is going to be used is too narrow, and to consider replacing the tulip tree with something else that will thrive in our climate, and that an irrigation plan is necessary, and the location of the AC equipment since it affects the master bedroom in relation to the master bedroom.
Two other items. One is the roof plan should be properly drawn based on whatever the elevations are, front elevation at least.
What were you saying?
The roof plan?
Doesn't match.
It's
the
not
roof
drawn
plan, yeah.
properly. Yeah,
Well,
the roof plan.
I was going to say all the drawings should match.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes,
The perimeter railing details, if that was addressed.
And interior elevations
Interior
too.
elevations.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And then there was one more thing that I was going to...
And the
Oh.
board also, suggested that the designer, architect meet with fire and building safety for specific code
Right.
requirements,
Okay, so here's the...
Also.
Yes.
and engineering.
Also, I'd like to include, I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
the interior courtyard, I think everything is just colored concrete. They might, because of the narrowness, they might experiment with some different patterns or just something to make it more interesting other than concrete. As well.
If it is, then are they going to... How's it going to be colored concrete? Are they going to stain the concrete?
I don't know, that's what it said in the, that's what I read.
Um,
I'm just saying it needs to be looked
Some
at.
finished material.
But it's a deck, so are they going to put a new finished material on
Yeah,
top of the
finished
deck, or is it going to be?
That's what we need to-
All right, so information on the finished deck. So here's the big question. What do you guys think about that extension, that balcony that was added on so that they can maintain that 8-foot?
I don't think it's a balcony. I mean, it's an odd space.
I think that's the only reason that it's there for. It's not doing anything, but.
And it's too large.
And
for
if we
a balcony.
remove that, then obviously the entire building has to be second floor. So any,
Sorry, Mr. Pelican, you're referring to the two balconies facing the street?
no.
Connecting the buildings.
The two
Oh,
and the
this one.
between the back
Oh, okay. Glad
section,
I asked.
those bridges that are connecting, and because of those, it's solving that average 8-foot setback issue.
We
Just
should
a
look at
thought,
it.
because
We should look at it.
Or would you prefer to see that the project eliminate?
I would. I don't know. I mean, if they can clean these drawings up and make these more serious than what it is now, rather than just a schematic design, then it may actually work.
If they're able to integrate
Yeah.
it.
So I can hold off on that.
Let's see how the final design works. You know,
Same.
I just wanted to reiterate,
Don't have any-
you know, there certainly was a lot of comments made, right? A lot of conditions made. And as the designer and architect, you're hearing all this, and it seems like a lot. But I just want you to kind of remember the initial thoughts, which was the design is in the right direction, the materials are in the right direction, and overall, the general concept is in the right direction. So now you just got to clean things up and really focus on details, which is going to make it a lot better of a project. And so, and as such, if you're able to work out that balcony matter that Mr. Malakian is referring to and integrate it better into your project, you won't have to dramatically redesign the massing of the project, because it's going if that doesn't work, all your setbacks are not going to work, and which means that you're going to end up pushing in a lot of your stairs and whatnot, and it's going to really affect. So you want to really start concentrating on that element and just take your overall design language and fine tune it. Yeah, you emphasize some roof drains and start thinking about that, of where you want to place them and how they come down and how they will add to the design. But I just wanted to illustrate that overall the design concept that we had said was in the right direction, and we're not asking for you to completely redesign, come up with a new style. No, the style's in the right direction. You just got to take them from a schematic set to more of a fine-tuned design development set.
But we've always said that a contemporary design, the success is always in the details.
That's right. It's always more difficult.
It's a minimal design, so in order
Everything counts. You can't cover it up.
And from what I do, I think you'll experience that once it's built, you'll have less issue with the property once it's built, because on my end, I deal with issues after properties are built, and I see problems because of design issues from the beginning that were not addressed, such as those downspouts that you have. Water going into an entry area could lead to a lot of problems for you after it's built. So it's good that I think we're dealing with these things now.
So do we want to have a motion, or you still have?
I may suggest also, just a suggestion to the applicant, that he would check with the water and power he has a power pole in the back. That is a 3-story in the back. There's OSHA clearances from the power lines. And I think the question you say why, and I think maybe that's
But
one
why
of the
isn't
reasons.
that carrying through from the middle section of the building, if that's the case?
I think it's wise for him
Yeah.
to check with that.
Agree. So I'll
Before we make a decision, does the architect want to make a rebuttal comment? You can come up and give us your name and address
You're
again.
being kind. We've never done that.
We certainly appreciate your comments tonight. We definitely see the lack of the detail, so we'll go back. We'll work on all the details. All the comments that you made, we'll certainly get it and address it, and come back for the next meeting. Will we be able to get a set date, or will it be continued unknown?
I'm
Not
gonna
this
do a
time.
return for redesign, so there aren't going to be any set dates. It's not a continuation. So return for redesign depends on when you bring it
I
back
see.
and when staff can schedule it. And
I see.
The only thing, if he brings it within 6 months, he doesn't have to do the noticing again, correct? Or that's...
Yes, that's correct.
That's correct, yeah.
Design Review Board is here every Thursday night, or every other Thursday night.
Okay,
All right.
All right, thank you.
thank you. Now, do we have a motion?
so I'll move to return for redesign with comments.
I'll second the motion
Okay.
with the conditions.
Yes. There was a motion by Mr. Malakian to have the project come back as a return for redesign with the recommended comments and conditions, and a second by Mr. Mardian. This will be roll call. Mr. Chachian,
Yes.
Mr. Mardian,
Yes.
Mr. Malakian,
Yes.
Mr. Simonian,
Yes.
Madam Chair Palmer.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mardian's going to take over as chair.
Now that we have speakers even? You want me to earn my living there, don't you?
I'll just stay here.
Okay.
Are y'all ready?
Sure. No, those are the other.
Yeah, properties.
Okay, are we ready?
We are. Good evening, Design Review Board members. The last item this evening is case number PDR 1404182. It's a review of a proposal to construct a 1,286 square foot addition to an existing single-family house, a 500 square foot guest house, a swimming pool, and covered patio. The project is located at 1631 Capistrano Avenue on a 13,875 square foot lot. Wanted to point out a little correction in the staff report.
But if it's outside of setback,
Recent permits for an addition, a smaller addition to the house and walls have not expired. I think in the staff report I cited that they had expired. They have not expired. A stop work order was issued probably about a year ago because permitted work commenced on the project, but it exceeded the scope of the permit. So since that time, the applicant has decided to increase the scope of the work and incorporate the addition that was initially contemplated into the current project. So the subject site is located on the north side of Capistrano Avenue, mid-block between Kenyatta Boulevard and Blanchard Drive, and is rectangular in shape. The applicant is proposing to add almost 1,300 square feet to an existing 1,700 square foot residence, maintaining the one-story height. The addition includes a new master bedroom, family room, pantry, and laundry room at the rear of the residence, and then enclosure of a portion of the covered entry porch to floor area at the front of the residence. A covered patio is proposed behind the family room addition. The project also includes the guest house located behind, or a guest house located behind the existing garage. The location of the master bedroom, family room addition, guest house, pool, as well as the existing garage enable the integration of several outdoor areas into the site design, which is encouraged in the single-family neighborhood design guidelines. Lot coverage is approximately 33% under the maximum 40% allowed. Approximately 54% of the site will be landscaped. The majority of the proposed plants are drought-tolerant varieties, although staff does suggest reducing the size of the lawn, particularly in the front yard, if the St. Augustine species is chosen. The landscape plans, I believe, said St. Augustine or buffalo grass is proposed in the front yard. Buffalo grass is drought tolerant. St. Augustine is not. So that's the genesis of the suggested condition. 5-foot block walls are located along the interior property lines of the subject site, and a 5-foot block wall also encloses the front courtyard of the house. 2 gates, one for the driveway and one for the entry, are located within the newly built wall. The wrought iron design of these gates should be simplified to be more complementary to the Spanish-style house. And we did receive a revised design earlier today. I put a copy of that design on your desks. That is it.
As opposed to this?
Correct.
It's an existing condition.
I don't believe the gates have been installed yet. The single-family residence will remain one story after completion of the project. The guest house and the vast majority of the addition are located at the rear of the lot, and therefore won't add mass as viewed from the street. The entry addition is located under an existing covered porch and should not increase the perceived mass of the residence, since it is already located under an existing feature of the house. The roof of the proposed addition includes a front-facing gable, which is approximately 4.5 feet higher than the existing roof, and will add somewhat to the overall mass of the house. And you can see that in the front elevation. But because this portion of the roof is about 70 feet back from the street front property line, this increase in mass we don't believe will be significant. The neighborhood has a wide range of home sizes. The residence after the proposed addition will be about 3,000 square feet, which is the second largest in the neighborhood, according to the neighborhood survey, which is posted on the board. Floor area ratio of the site will be 0.25, below the maximum 0.4 permitted in FAR District 2, but it is slightly above the average of 0.22 in the neighborhood. The surrounding neighborhood contains a variety of period home styles and some newer, more contemporary designs. The existing house on the subject site is Spanish Revival and will remain as such after the completion of the project. I need to make a little bit of a correction. I had thought that the house had a traditional two-piece tile roof, and I'm sure at one point it did. However, the tile that was most recently on the roof and has been removed is sort of a clay S tile, I believe, and the applicants have pictures of it. Staff believes that the roof should go back to the traditional two-piece tile, although it wasn't presently on the house. An eagle-eye roof tile is proposed in an S shape, though, so that's something that you'll need to discuss.
That's the one on the garage right now.
Correct. Yeah. But when the applicants will show you a picture of the tile that they took from the roof, and their intent was to reinstall that on the roof, and then also the new tile will be this Eagle Light roof tile. Wood windows are proposed and will replace most of the existing windows currently located on the home. There is a condition to clarify that wood windows will be used and they'll be recessed into the facade of the residence. Unfortunately, there isn't a cut of window installation. That's why that condition was added.
I thought I saw either a vinyl window or some sort of other window and material board.
It's a wood series vinyl guard, painted white. I'll show you the picture.
Probably aluminum clad and wood inside.
So it's okay.
So it's an aluminum window, or is it aluminum clad?
According to the applicant and the notes, it's wood.
Okay.
And
doesn't.
Based aluminum.
We could
Yes.
have.
We'll ask him.
Okay.
I think the brochure should have been posted up there as well with the material.
Aluminum, it's aluminum window with wood clad.
Clad.
So, but
Okay.
it's cladded with a layer of wood on the inside. On the outside, it's metal.
Okay, all right. The window brochure should have been posted on, if it's not up there, I'll get another copy. And then the final sort of comment condition I've already said regarding the gates. That's something you'll need to look at. We just got the revised design this morning, so we haven't really taken a look at it. So that concludes my presentation. There were 4, I believe, conditions placed on the project. Staff is recommending approval of the project with those 4 conditions.
Mr. Roger, can you tell me where the existing condition ends in the building right now? Can you, because the addition there was another permit, so where does the addition ends right now? I know the perspective shows.
The addition that was approved about a year and a half ago has been incorporated into this new project.
Okay.
I don't exactly remember where the smaller addition approved a year ago ended and began. I know it included this front entry, part of the portion that's covered here. The current project is the entry, and then this is sort of a family room, pantry addition here, and then the master bedroom addition is here. So the entire, the addition to the main house is this area here,
Plus the gate and all that.
plus this, for floor area.
Right.
The guest house is back here behind the garage. This is all new floor area.
Now, you mentioned the block wall. I only saw, unless I'm missing the drawing, which one is the new block wall we're talking about?
The block walls are here.
No, is it existing or new?
It's partially, it's existing.
Okay.
Or almost finished. That was also a permit that was issued about a year and a half ago. It has not been completed yet.
The front one was.
It's the front, and I believe it was also the permit also permitted.
Because on the
allowed
side,
the
on the plan,
sides.
it shows all existing.
Well, I think it shows existing because it's mostly constructed.
Okay.
Well, you mentioned something about permit disputes or some sort of stop order.
Yes.
Elaborate on that a bit, just
Sure.
so we understand the history of
About a
that.
year and a half ago, they got approval for just under 700 square feet of addition, and there was addition. There were other. There were a few other things that were included in that addition, and what happened was they exceeded the scope of that permit, such that the 50% rule for demolition was kicked in, and so we needed to take that to the board because it was, considered a new house. So in between that time, the applicant said, well, if we have to go to the board, if it's considered a new house, we're going to increase the scope of the work. And so, the roughly 700 square foot addition became the roughly 1,300 square foot addition and guest house. That's in a nutshell, sort of.
Thank you.
Any questions or? No. Okay, we'll open the public hearing. And ask the applicant to come. Mr. Vartan Jangosian.
Good evening, board members, city planning staff. My name is Vartan Jangosian, 1224 East Broadway, Suite 202. Before starting my conversation, so I'd like to give you the picture of the existing house before we did start the construction.
Barton, can you also, and I can make copies of the picture of the stacked up. Yeah. Picture of the roofing tile.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, since Roger presented all the information and technical and planning code issues, I like to discuss only about the exceeding scope of work. I mean, exceeding scope of the work, it's not mean we did kind of design changes or adding square footage. During the construction, everybody knows sometimes when you demolish or open up the drywall, you see a lot of surprises. That was the reason we end up changing almost like 20 pieces of wall studs because it was termite damage. And if you look carefully at that picture, over the roof we had a settlement. And we tried to open up and see what's happened. Same thing was happening with the roof rafters. So that's why we've been forced to remove all the tiles. And there was a lot of broken tiles too, just to repair altogether. Otherwise, scope of the work was the same design, same square footage. And also, I would like to discuss about, the permit expiration. I mean, because of, like last December was a stop order for the construction because of that issue. I mean, after that, we didn't do anything, and automatically, most of the permits are expired. But I want to talk about that front fence wall that totally was done and signed by the building inspector, and it was, I have a copy here, I can give you. And was talking only we need to make a finishing work. And we couldn't do finishing work because of, we decided to do together all stucco works. And talking about the addition on this work, since we forced to go design board, the owner wanted to make some more addition because they was thinking to do that, but maybe several years later. I said, let's do that all together. And we extend the actually family room little bit, and we provide some sitting room for master bedroom and a guest house. That is all about this project. And I like to discuss about that recommendation too, about the double tiles. We retain most of the tiles in this building, so we like to use again. Here's the tiles. And I like to reconsider that, recommendation, because that double tile is going to create a lot of problem because of the weight of the tile. And the windows, like we mentioned, is going to be wood with aluminum clad brown color. And the next thing is about the landscaping. I should, unfortunately, Judy Palmer is not here. I would ask her to just deal with that issue, and we're considering to work on that issue too. And you have a question? I'm here.
Any questions?
I do have.
Sure, go ahead.
So on your details, you're calling certain things, is it just, it says Class A asphalt roof tiles, but it's pointing out to shingle, is there a asphalt
Oh,
shingle?
that is standard details?
Okay, so okay, that's fine. So how detrimental, or why, let me ask you this, why raising the plate height to 10 feet where the entire house right now it's on the lower plate height in the back area? Is it just because, said, why do you raise the entire plate height to 10 foot in the back, the entire back addition? Is it just because you wanted a higher ceiling, or is it because it's creating a pretty heavy mass in the back area?
Because of the design of the roof, because rear portion, when it's getting wider, so I try to stick with the existing character of the home. So that's why that rear portion has become a little bit higher. And plus, we wanted to do a little bit higher ceiling than previously it was done.
But when you look at
I can show you on
in the walls. Come on
Sure.
over. Let me show you what I mean is. Right now, your average existing house section is here.
Yes.
By taking this and bringing it up to this level, so what you're going to do is you're going to create this. Literally, bringing this down doesn't really do anything as far as the just. It's right there. So I'm just wondering, was there a reason for that, or just because you wanted a higher ceiling?
The reason to have a higher ceiling here, that rear portion, because it's a new, and my client wanted to have a little bit higher ceiling because 8 foot it's a little bit kind of depressing, and that was the only reason. And plus, if we go with the same ceiling height, we could have a roof,
It just looks
combination issue.
because you have this, and then
Yes.
you go up, and then this is cut short. It's just you're creating these different. This would have probably been a better choice if this was there. But you brought an alternate gate.
Yes.
So is that gate going to be used throughout, like here and here
Exactly.
and here?
Yes. Yes, same character.
So same wood solid door is going to be placed there?
Yes.
Okay. And then you're proposing to put brick on top of these?
Because the same thing we have here, so I tried to combine, keep the characters going together.
Is that brick existing that's under that bay window in the front, or is it proposed?
There's
The picture you show me doesn't.
There's, and it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
There's brick right there?
There was brick.
Yeah, you don't want to touch it. Every time you get close, it
Yeah.
moves.
Where's the brick? Because this picture doesn't show it.
It looks like brick. It looks like it's a brick chimney, brick over on the left side, the gate there, and I don't know what that. I don't see brick under the window.
No, I don't see a brick. Any more questions?
And then the last thing is, these are, I'm assuming, because it's already there, that's what is being proposed, right? So they've already purchased these tiles, and so that's what we're...
95% of the tiles are okay to use back.
I understand, but what I'm saying, it's already there, right? So they've already purchased these, and so you're proposing the same tiles to be used here?
Same tiles.
Just to clarify, these were
Even
not. These were,
Eagle Tile Company has a similar things, so that's why I specify Eagle Tile.
I'm sorry. I need some clarification. Sorry to interrupt, Mr.
Go ahead, Mr.
You have a picture here of the project allegedly before the construction.
Right.
These are the tiles that are in this picture
Yes.
here. So these were not purchased. These were existing on the home when the home was
Right.
prior to construction.
Yeah, they took them off the roof and saved them.
Okay, all right. That makes...
So we safely retained all the tiles. Maybe we need 5 to 10% to replace it with the same color.
So the question now,
Plus the addition, though.
Plus the addition.
Plus the addition, of course.
Yeah.
So these tiles, when they were replaced, were they replaced by, are these the original tiles of the, it's not, it doesn't look like they were original.
I
So-
can't
so-
tell you for sure, but I don't think
Were
in
they
the
originally
20s or
permitted?
30s when the house was built, they
No,
had
I
that
don't-
kind of
I
tile.
don't think they had it.
These
So-
tiles are not 1920s.
That's
that
what I-
time
but-
they didn't
No,
manufacture
but
this
my
kind of
question
tile.
is that when they purchased, or whoever placed these originally, was there, were they permitted, or?
To be honest with you, I'm not sure.
You can go back there if you like. Yeah.
Okay. So I need.
And just, I want to add something. Looks like the existing tile was shingle tiles. When they put this concrete tiles, that was the settlement. So some of, because of roof roughness, wasn't calculated for tile roofing. So that was settlement. Even if you go even, I mean, at that time, I took a picture, was a lot of settlement like this. So that was the purpose, you know, the tiles are new. I mean, I don't think it's more than like 20 years old.
On the same question, so you're saying the tile was too heavy and you had some deflection.
Can you talk higher?
You said the roof had deflection and you removed the tile. Did you reinforce this roof? Is this roof reinforced?
Actually, we make repair work.
So how could you
But if
resolve
we-
that problem?
Pardon me?
How could you resolve the deflection issue if you're going to use the same by just repairing?
No, that was new framing. It's done. The existing
So the whole
one
roof
was a
was
2x4.
removed. The whole roof was removed and replaced.
Yeah, some of them we reinforced from inside.
I
yes.
think that was part of the genesis of the
Okay.
work exceeding the scope of the original
It's already
permit.
built. The roof is already there.
No, I know, I saw it.
Structure.
But so on the previous, the stop work order was not because of floor area. It was just the 50%, and you had termite or
There was-
was there addition?
I don't think there was any more addition of floor area than what was proposed in the original permit.
Okay.
But it was the fact that the roof was removed, some of the walls were removed, and then I met with them on site and said, you may very well have exceeded 50%, and so I will need some calculation to determine that with certainty. And at that point, I think they decided not to provide that calculation and just assume it was over 50% and propose this new project. So,
Thank you. Any other questions?
No. I have one other. What's motivating the redesign of the gate from the one that's in this picture here?
Can I?
I'm sorry. What is motivating the design change from what is in this picture here to what we were handed to?
Okay, because of a recommendation, again, that gate was, I worked with Roger, and I think we show all that design, and we got okay to use that, wrought iron. But since for the design review board, there is a recommendation to simplify the design, so we're proposing, if you're going to like that.
Recommendation by staff?
The staff report included a recommendation to simplify the design of the gates.
So
I think that was the
that's why I brought
genesis of the new
picture.
design.
If this is okay, we are ready to go with that one.
So have the windows been purchased also?
Windows are purchased. It's the same kind of window. It's a wood window, and with aluminum plate. Exactly same size, same character. Everything, it's there.
And the
We are
color,
not changing the character of the windows.
And the color is this
Yes.
brownish
Only
bronzes.
the pink color, we're changing to brown color.
And then what about the window sills? Do you have wood window sills in the proposed design?
Yes.
So all the windows have a wood sill, and then
Yes.
on the sides, the stucco are the windows
We're
recessed
going to
on the
open
side?
up the stucco and put the windows in.
And are the windows recessed on the side of the home?
They are currently.
They are currently.
They are currently, and just since there was some unclarity, that was included as a condition in the staff report.
Actually, the cut sheet, yes, for the windows.
What was that? Well, I didn't see it in the file. There was a brochure, a window brochure.
We could go again.
Okay, any more questions?
No?
So right now, the details that you have in the back are not going to be applicable. We'll rely on staff to make sure that the wood sill and because right now the way that the details are showing are flush with the aluminum windows, square windows that are flush with the stucco, and what the architect just indicated that it's going to match the existing, which is different than what the details are showing.
Right.
So we're going to rely on staff when they go out to do their sign-off to make sure that it follows what's there.
Well, maybe what we
That's
should
what we're
also
gonna-
do is modify condition 4. Wood-clad aluminum windows shall be installed throughout the house and recessed in the facade of the house. Staff to approve the cut sheet of the window detail. I don't know if that's the right way to say it.
Well, right now, the detail, the way it's shown is a very typical, which I understand is just a typical detail that it's inserted, but what we want to do is we want to match the existing conditions. So I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Okay.
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 Thank you very much. Sure. I have the next speaker, Donatella Bouchard.
Can I go next?
Sure, you can go. Hamlet Sarkisian, yes. All right.
Dear board members, hello. Before I introduce myself, I really want to take this opportunity and thank my architect.
And your name for the record,
Hamlet Sarkisian. I'm the owner. I'm married to Donatella Guichard. We have 3 children. Next year is our 20th anniversary. And so...
What'd you buy her?
Huh?
What'd you...
So I want to thank them because Vartan Jangosian and Roger Kiesel did an amazing job. Thank you for answering my 650 emails diligently and coming back to me. We have 3 children. What was attracted us to this house, it was because it's cute Spanish, but also it's 100 meters away from my mother's house. So that provides us this opportunity for my children to grow up with my mother. And that was a very important thing for us. So I want to add just a few things. I want to give you this exhibit which will show you how termite infested the studs were. And when we talk about exceeding scope of work, it was just changing the studs, termite infested studs. And I think we changed, probably we calculated 20 more than we were supposed to. So that's the reason we actually did calculation among ourselves, and we realized we just changed 20 more. But our contractor and everybody was advising us not to proceed with termite-infested studs. That was very important.
Not to put them back.
That's right. It was hundreds of thousands of dollars of investment, so safety was very important. So that was the reason, the change of it. Now, about the wall. The wall was permitted. Everything was, I have the permit, which I can provide it to you.
That's okay. We believe you. We believe you. That's okay.
Yeah. So I have the permit with drawings. Everything was permitted, built under inspection. Everything was properly done, and we were just waiting to stucco it. And that's when the stop order was issued. So then we decided to add a little bit more square footage, more proper, because we have 3 children. We need a little bit more space. So then we decided to incorporate that in it. So then we just have to wait until we finish the construction. Then once we stucco it, we'll stucco the wall too. So it falls into it. We think the report properly really shows everything about our house, and we think even the front 5-foot wall is important for us to have, because if you look into the landscape design, you will see a lot of vegetable beds, because my wife is a food writer. Also, there's a lot of experiment with food is happening at home in cooking, because she's writing a book. So those vegetable beds, we went through such a long time with our landscape architect to make sure that we have enough vegetable beds, so she can do this in-home cooking. And that wall provides us some sort of symbolic safety too, because there is just and we also have small children, small pets, kind of confined environment inside. So that was the reason. So I think it's important for us to have that. What else? I have 16 signatures from my immediate neighbors all around me. I personally walked to their homes. Nobody's objecting to this scope of work. Everybody's very happy for us to complete this project and finally finalize this, because there's a construction fence there, and quite frankly, they're tired of it. And us too. We just cannot wait to complete this. So I'm kind of done. Do you have anything to add, Sherry?
No, maybe there's some questions. I mean, I changed the design of the gate because I think Roger thought it was a bit too heavy. There was too much iron. So that was a gate that I found. Actually, I copied a design from Granada in Spain. It was a 1600th century gate done, in Spain. But if you think that it doesn't fit with the design of the house and of the neighborhood, then I think that the one that I offered today is a bit more oriented on the wood and less on the iron. Even though we will have to use probably real iron to put on the gate, on the wood, and not like fake pieces of metal, kind of not iron. I agree with my husband. The wall is really important because I'm a food writer and I basically have to test what I write about, and I would like to not have neighbors or strangers coming and picking up from my vegetable beds. What else? The very height you were asking, Mr. Malikan, you were asking about why do we have such a high ceiling roof, right? Yeah. And it's coming from a person. I mean, it's not too. From my opinion, it's not too high because it's not too overbearing from the street. But the reason is that the kitchen is going to be there, and so I designed the kitchen in such a way that I would have a high ceiling. And what else? I think that's it. Oh yes, there are seals on each single windows, existing windows. It's brick for the one that is in the front, and that's the reason why Vartan was suggesting to also have bricks on the top.
There is brick on that big front window.
Painted.
There is brick. It's just painted brick.
It's
On the
painted
frame,
white.
the
That's
frame
right.
itself?
Right under the
just
bottom.
the seal.
Just the sill.
Just the seal.
It's painted the same peach color?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
It's kind of common in these revival Spanish. And to answer also your question, Mr. Malikian, all the windows have been bought, and they are planned to be recessed
That was how it
on
was
the
planned.
seal, yeah. And they're wood inside and clad outside. That's it.
Go ahead, Mr. Mori.
The exposed timber, the exposed heavy timber that's being proposed, what color do you plan on painting that?
Can you repeat for me,
Yes,
please, Mr. Simonian?
Is that above the,
Underneath
right
the
as you
eaves.
enter the covered
The
porch?
eaves, the eaves itself.
The existing thick wood timbers, heavy wood lumber?
Oh, on the entry porch? The one
Correct.
that yeah, they're still there.
Yes, and what color do you plan on painting that? Because I noticed, you have the white stucco, and then you have this brownish
I was thinking
window.
brownish. If I find a good brown, I was thinking to match it with the windows. If I can find the original wood in good shape, then I will have them painted exactly in the same color as the outdoor windows.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Just a clarification, this window, we bought it, we didn't, you've bought the windows for this proposed addition too?
No.
Okay.
No.
Those we have not done
No,
it.
no.
Okay.
Just for
Only
the
the one with
previous
permits.
work.
Yeah. No, we have experience, little experience. Not too
Wow,
much detail.
so you guys are brave here.
No.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? No? Thank you.
Thank
You're
you. Thank you very
welcome.
much.
I have another speaker, George Sarkisian.
Good evening. My name is George Sarkisian, and I live at 1652 El Rito Avenue. It's in the same city block. For full disclosure, I'm brother of Hamlet and Nutella, and I've been living in that address for about 17 years now. So it's not foreign either to them or myself. They have 3 children. I do have 3 children. They kind of grew up together, and I've seen the changes that is going through our neighborhood the last 17 years. They are mostly positive, and thank you all for contribution. Most of the houses that really needed to be reshaped, I have to say probably 80% already I've noticed how they got renewed, and it's very family-oriented and good neighborhood. That's one reason that they're moving closer, because of the schools that we experienced and everything. Unfortunately, for the reasons that you already heard, it got delayed, and it's kind of put us under pressure altogether as a family. But in the process, when I was discussing this with my neighbors, immediate neighbors, there will be immediate neighbors to them. This is one street north from where Capistrano is, El Rito. So most of the neighbors that are neighbors to me on same street will be their neighbors to their back fence. And it was, totally, basically people waiting for it to be, done, because it was delayed for all the reasons that we already mentioned. And sooner the project gets completed and the fence is down and the dust is out of the area, it's beneficial for all of us, of course. And I've been hearing a lot of motivation in my immediate neighborhood. For whatever reasons, it got delayed. I'm not yet quite sure of the real causes that lie behind it, but I would ask you to consider everything that was discussed already, and obviously I'm in favor of this project.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Have another speaker, Myrna Stanley.
Good afternoon, and thank you for your time. My name is Myrna Stanley. I'm president of Verdugo Woodlands West Homeowners Association, and I can't tell you how thrilled I was to hear for the first time from the planner that this is a new house. This is an absolutely new house, and we'll get to the other part later, but I have to tell you, we lament, we being the board members who were speaking and two of the neighbors who had called, the loss of what we feel is a very classic Spanish home. And I'm going to distribute maybe another perspective from the side of the former home. The first thing I want to ask you all and staff is there appears to be a lack of follow-through on the part of the city when either you get design review or administrative approval. There's a lack of follow-through in that, and this is the first time it's happened, the project far exceeds the scope of the work performed far exceeds what was approved. My recall and version of how the stop work order differs from what I've heard. My husband has stopped driving me by the former house because I'm sure he's grown tired of me. Every time we pass this wonderful home, I used to tell him, I wish if I had the money that I don't have, I would buy that house. It just had the best bones ever. Did it need landscaping? Of course. Did it need maintenance? Yes. But it had, as I say, it was just a classic home, and now that's gone. We don't have it, and I don't know if there are any consequences. I have no clue. It might have been monetary, but so what? And not just with this project, with other projects. So you pay a fine, and eventually you get what you want, apparently. So I received 2 phone calls at my home about this house that was fenced in, and just asking me what was happening and that there was a wall and whatever. I had no clue what they were talking about. And I drove over there, and what I saw with my height, the entire roof line changed. It was this front gable, from what I could see, and whatever. And so I called Roger. I said, Roger, what's going on? Because I know this hadn't gone to design review. That started it. And then Roger went out, and that's what it wasn't. I've heard the story about termites, and I'm not saying it didn't happen. We had that same problem on Niobrara 10 years ago, and we had a volcanic eruption. I'm sure Mr. Loomis remembers, where there were significant changes in the planning department and having to do with building inspectors are now supposed to be taking out 8.5 by 11 pictures of what the house is supposed to look like. So when they see a huge home and that's not what was approved, they can say something. Your staff reports are now analyze the project. I need you to tell me if this is a new house should add to the neighborhood and be an improvement. And I'm not saying this is a bad house. I'm not saying it's a poor design. We've just lost in our minds something very classic. And I need you to tell me if this is better than this. Because if you think it is, then we have a huge gap in what we think compatibility is. And I respectfully remind you that just because something meets code doesn't mean that it's a compatible or it belongs there. So our concerns, now that this house is up, is, and Mr. Maliki and I was, during the first project, I was looking at this, and I thought, I wonder why that front gable is there, because it's not living space. And I thought, well, they probably want a higher ceiling, and I understand that, but if that was removed, it would look more Spanishy, I think. Our other concern is the enclosure of this gorgeous front porch. It's just a shame. I honestly think if that was eliminated, the property owners would be much happier. The wall and the fence, even the modified fence, I totally understand why they need a gate for security reasons. I'm not questioning that, but this house is not welcoming. It doesn't say "come on in" like the original house did. In my opinion, I don't know. I got to tell you, if I really need to know if you think this is an improvement over what was there before, even before you talk about what needs to be changed, if anything. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer them. Otherwise, I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yeah,
We should
we should. Can we have the applicant come up, please? Or you have 2 minutes to rebuttal. Do you want
Okay.
your architect to speak, or you want?
And your name for the record. Both.
Hamlet Sarkisian, Donatilla Guichard. I mean, to say that this house had good bones, I challenge you, ma'am, to just tell me if you know who was living there. We happen to know the lady who owned the house. Martha Mumford was her name. My mother walks on that street every day, says hello to her. I personally said hello to her. This house was built by her family, never ever once has been renovated. She was living in a dire poverty. The same owner association, I don't know, where are they when it comes to helping their neighbors? She was in dire poverty. So we went inside the house. It was infested by termites to a degree that even when it was part of the condition that they could not even provide themselves, the sellers, the termite report, because they said it's borderline, has to be destroyed, the house. We tried to save this house. This is why we're going through this trouble, because we tried to keep those few things. Otherwise, had I known we're going to go through all these things, I would have applied for demolition and making it's costing us arm and leg to keep this house. It's been going on 2 years. So that is absolutely not true, that house had good bones, had zero good bones. We are giving good bones to this house, making the same house even better.
Thank you. I had actually a question for the applicant. Mr. Vartan? No, I mean, your designer architect. Go ahead, Mr. Simone. Go ahead.
Well, I was, and this might be more geared towards the ownership. You had mentioned that you have some support letters from six.
Yeah, they passed it up.
I haven't seen it.
Here.
It was
There is
placed in your
16
desk. Never mind.
16 supporting neighbors.
They're front and back.
All immediate of the property, every single one.
Mr. Jungosian, this entry porch, this exposed beams, the existing, all being removed. So you're creating a new support underneath because of the alteration of that entry, correct?
Okay. There was a moment to go living room. We go all the way back to the house, almost like coming back. Can I show on the drawing?
Yeah, all of my question is very actually. If you're looking at this elevation, this original post, the beam and all that was supported with a column in the middle. That's totally being redone, correct?
This is the same type of wood.
But it's the same type of wood, but you had a column in here that is being
we had the
disappeared.
column here.
So this underneath is all.
Yeah, there was
Okay.
a column here too. And why we create this one, because before we forced it to go like a, let me go. All right. Here, we went to here and come back here, we make it step up and step down, but when we create this portion of the entry, there was a level with the living room. So it was more easy, to go living room because they are not taking a kind of step up and step down all the time.
In other words, there was a great difference between
and
the.
there was a window, actually door, with the same kind of design.
Since I have you up here, why do you have these? I know that the part of the reason that it's causing this weird height. Why do you have these elements that are cut like that? Because the 45 that you're creating, especially here, it's creating an awkward situation, and also making the house is becoming, it feels like it's being added on.
If we line up with this one, we couldn't have even 8-foot, ceiling.
Well, that's.
If I line up this roof eave situation with this one, we could have a less than 8-foot, rooms here.
Yeah, because your
Since we are
mass
doing
width
the
is very
addition-
wide. You're occupying the whole back. That's why your height and the roof and.
Right, and I have to keep the same slope.
It just looks very odd, and it's, it looks unproportional to the rest of the house. That's my opinion. I'll wait until but my question is, can you eliminate these and make it?
This was in the back rear side of the house. It's not visible from the street too.
I take that argument, that's an argument, that's a discussion that I'll take some other time.
And I would say this portion up to this portion of the house was approved before coming December too. We had only this small portion here.
And another question, what are those elements under the gable? Those are not vents, those are ornamental treatments, the Rossetti, those, yeah. Those are just attached to the building.
Just because of door design was with the same wrought iron element, we put the
Is
same.
that a high ceiling
So we
here?
can change that too.
Is that a high ceiling there? Is it a
Here
gable?
we have a high ceiling, yes.
No, I'm just the thought about the height and those situations. Okay, anybody else has any questions? No?
I do. The height of the walk wall that's capped with the brick in the front, what is the height on that?
It's a 5-foot the wall and a 6-foot that columns breaking the solid wall.
Any more questions, board members? Thank you, Mr. Stick. Okay, the public session is closed. Mr. Simonian, you want to start? Since you started earlier, we'll keep the same.
Go with the same order.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate everyone taking the time to come meet with us, and also appreciate the feedback that staff gave us on the history. It certainly does help to understand a bit of previous permits and work stop orders, et cetera, as we assess these complex matters. The house as depicted, has some minimal Spanish characteristics, and in itself, the simplicity of the design and the overhang of the porch and whatnot has kind of this quaint feel to it. And the vast openness of the front yard, of course, was adding to that minimal, modest architectural design. As these older homes are renovated, of course, there's certainly different directions to take, whether it's, well, the big decision up front is one-story expansion, which reduces your rear yard, as opposed to a second-story addition. And especially in this neighborhood, second-story additions are challenging because of the ability to make them compatible with the existing fabric of the neighborhood. And as such, I do appreciate, and I think the applicants have chosen wisely to pursue a one-story addition. It certainly does make it much easier for this board to approve a given project that's one-story in nature, because most of the addition occurs in the rear, and that's because, and I'd like to emphasize that, is the fact that the one-story additions don't really impact the neighborhood and the given street elevations as much, because most of the addition happens in the rear. In this scenario, although the applicant has taken all the right approaches in expanding on a one-story fashion, I do think that part of that rear expansion could maybe be looked at as far as the roof design is concerned to minimize its impact on the neighborhood. But overall, the general direction of it, I believe, is correct. However, as I think is going to be mentioned, whether it's the roof, the main ridge, the main beam height, or whether it's the height of the rafters or whatnot, it still could be amended in such a way where it's better conforming. But overall, I would say that utilizing a simple hacienda Spanish style of architecture is the right approach, which you've taken. I would continue that language throughout and really celebrate some of the exposed rafters that are there, which you are keeping as well, and I think that would be a wise move. I would suggest and think it would be a good idea not to actually have same color of the windows with the beams. The true style does depict a contrast between those, so it's kind of nicer to have maybe dark browns for all the heavy timber, and maybe more of a contrasting window color like a Merlot or a green or something, dark green, where there's that contrast. So I would think that would work out better and would be a better fit than that bronze color that's suggested. I think once you take on that avenue of thought and that avenue of design, ornamental ironwork becomes very important. And I would think that you should pay some attention to the way you design the vents and the way you design lighting and the way you design the ornamental ironwork, because it all adds to the design and the authenticity of that style, which is going to make it a nicer home. And some of those improvements could be done. I think the gate as depicted in the rendering is probably a better fit than what's depicted in the black and white image that's presented to us. But I'm not quite sure what some of the background was, Roger, as you might have discussed the gate with them, and I'm not even sure if you've even had a chance to even look over the gate that was presented. However,
I haven't.
I didn't think
looked,
you had. Yeah.
Yeah, the new design.
Could I just say that Jay looked at the proposal again. I think he was still preferring to see the gate potentially lightened up a little bit more and open without having the wood backing on it. Then he would have felt more comfortable with it.
I see. Okay. And so, gosh, where was I in my train of thought? Well, as is, I think I prefer the gate as depicted in the rendering. And as far as the wall is concerned, I believe that the use of the brick on the wall, it's the wrong approach. I think the project would be greatly improved if you don't create such a heavy wall that has these columns popping out, that fortressing effect, where you lighten up the wall and you use a different type of a cap that's more in line with the Spanish style. Spanish styles tend to use very limited use of accent colors and accent tiles, and it's a softer approach. The brick is a more brutal kind of an approach. And also the way you've buttressed the wall, every 6 or 8 feet or so, is not in line with the design. And so physically, I think you could create a wall that's more compatible with the design, and in so doing, it won't have such a fortress-like of a feeling, but that's one that would actually be more compatible. So overall, I believe the design is a modest in its nature, but the details just need to be worked out more. But the biggest issue, I believe, is the height in the rear, where I think if that's minimized, it certainly shouldn't create as much of an impact to the neighborhood, because it just frankly won't be really visible from the area, from the street. So, love to hear the rest of the thoughts and comments.
Sure. Okay. First, I want to comment on a couple of things. I did go to the site, and I spent about 20 minutes reflecting of this project and the neighborhood. And one of the important things, I think, for the viewing public to know is that in these historic neighborhoods, it's very important to think and plan appropriately. There's always going to be surprises in older homes. I have one that's built in 1920. It's full of surprises. And you can have contingency plans and things of this nature, and you ran into a bad situation with the termites. But prior to that, some decisions, I think, were made that if they were presented in an earlier state of things would allow us to give you some different feedback, and I think you would have ended up with a better construction. My understanding is that wall is up. It looks bigger than 5 feet to me, but I'll take it as indicated as 5 feet. I do agree that the brick adds more mass to it, so maybe a smooth stucco or a different capping would be good. But I do want to comment on the height, and that's what I really reflected on. It is a higher elevation than the surrounding homes until you look across the street. And across the street is a home that is almost identical in height to this house. And actually that home is closer to the street. This is 70 feet away. So with that, even though I would prefer the height to be less, I wouldn't make that a condition on this design because of the distance from the street. As to the gate, I understand the privacy. I have 2 kids myself. They like to play, and our home does not have this type of gate, has a different type of gate. So I understand the concern for privacy. Of the 2 designs, this I don't have it in front of me, but there we go. I agree. The one that's in the rendering, the larger rendering with the plans is more preferable than this one. And I would definitely not be in favor of any pointy spikes. It would definitely not go with the neighborhood nor the style of home. I think a compromise can be reached there between privacy and maybe taking out maybe the wood to the front door area, but keeping that for the gate. Some sort of discussion can be had about that, where there's openness to the Spanish elements of the entryway, but privacy for the kids playing with their bikes in the driveway and such. And then I want to talk about the landscaping, which was one of the conditions. I think that landscaping has to be rethought. The Augustine grass in the front, St. Augustine grass in the front, not only is it going to just suck up water and create large utility wheels, it is not where the neighborhood is trending, and I think that you would benefit from some choices there, drought-tolerant choices there. And I would ask, just as a recommendation, not a condition, that you install mature plants when you do your final landscaping to soften that wall. That wall, I think, needs to get softened to conform with the property. What you have in the renderings are a mature plant, but realistically, that's going to take years to develop. So you'll need to invest, I think, in some mature plants from the get-go. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Lincoln?
Well, I agree with my colleagues. I think we've already talked about the height of the back area. But one of the things that I want to talk about, and before I talk about this, explain to me, this wall was permitted properly and it was built properly, or was it not permitted?
The wall was permitted. I don't know whether it was built properly or not, because...
But it was permitted.
Right.
Okay.
So, assuming, I didn't go out to check the wall. That's typically not what we do, but building inspectors have gone out there on a couple of occasions.
Okay. So what I want to clarify to everyone and just bring it up is that the reason that we're here to review the design. It is kind of unfortunate you're here at this point. You've gotten permits and it's come to a point that, now you have an overall picture and we have to kind of put everything together and figure out what is right and what is wrong. One of the positive things that are going for this project is the location. You are within a very predominant area that has a lot of Spanish revival homes, and you have a lot of examples that you had originally the house, and there is a lot of examples. One particular project across on the other side of the lot is one of your, or on the other street, which is El Rito, 1634 El Rito, has something very similar, which has a very low wall that is covering. And one of the things that this project is doing is creating this private gate situation that it's changing the entire look, entire mass of this structure. So I kind of agree with our design studio, Mr. J, that more of a transparent, more of an open feel, and especially if we want to create something private, and then that is carried over to the opening that it's leading on to the entry, the covered porch area, which is leading on. By adding the same type of a door gate there, it's creating this one long mass of structure where before it was a lot more of a low rise and it was open and it had a lot of open area in the front yard. Now it's basically everything's coming forward. It is transforming. It is a neighborhood that is transforming, and our role is to make sure that everything is coherent and being able to look at the entire design and be able to see if it actually fits the way it is. In my opinion, I think the front wall is adding a substantial mass there. That by adding those bricks, it definitely does not help the situation. Privacy is, and they are within rights, so they are well within the setback, and but our goal is to be able to see if it actually fits within the design itself. So by eliminating in my opinion, I think the pilasters and the brick are something that is not really helping the situation. As far as the type of a gate, I like the rendering much more than what it was brought in as the darker or this black and white. But in overall, I think the area that I would concentrate in the front yard would be the front entry porch, that gate that is being proposed there. The addition is being, it's being kind of given to us not by choice, but it's just given to us because it's already there. I don't know where we want to go with this as far as lowering the roof or moving the walls or kind of creating. It is in the back, so it's not really adding any kind of an added mass or anything that it can be viewed from the street, but the ridge that it's being projected beyond the existing roof is what everybody's, I think, kind of the first look into this design was the first thought of how we can absorb that and how we can lower that. And I appreciate the homeowner wanted a high ceiling, getting about a 15, 16-foot high ceiling in that location in the kitchen. So, but for me, I think the front is more important than the back area. I think that is there, but I think the front gate and the front wall is something that I need to.
In a way, it's rewarding that they've chosen to expand on a one-story fashion.
Right.
And in order to do that, you almost need to go in a backyard.
Right.
So if you had the two, prefer a
Well, the
one-story.
bones of the structure, the openings and all of that have been maintained, so that's a positive approach. I definitely would put a condition that all the windows, even though we keep on saying wood clad, it's not going to be a wood clad. Wood is on the inside. Exterior is all going to be aluminum, so everybody's going to see aluminum rather than wood. There's not going to be any wood on this outside. So aluminum. I don't know, to be honest with you, how this aluminum is going to feel versus what it was there, the wood windows that were there, and how that's going to get detailed into the picture with all the plastering and kind of dying into that. Honestly, I don't know. Most of these wood, the mill guard aluminum, they're not block windows, they're nail-on windows. So I don't know how that nail-on window is going to really work with the plastered conditions that we want to see. But they are choosing that, and we are going to expect to see that. That's going to be a condition on my end.
Thank you. Well, you've said most of the comments that I said. I do agree with Ms. Malikian that this fence creates a whole new streetscape for that area. I have a concern with the height, but to my understanding, most of the frame is there or it's not there. Is the frame in the back there? So it's given, and it's quite a bit to. It's something that they've done, and I don't know where the board is going with that one, but I do feel that also the gate should be less ornate and transparent. And I do agree with the brick on the wall should be eliminated. I have concerns really with this. You have a little charming entry with the courtyard that you're trying to create. And by altering this corbels and the beams and creating this entry, I think it loses that character. Although you want to have an entry and all that, but I do have concerns with that because it really alters the house in that condition. Now, I can live with the height in the back, but I have some resentment about the entry porch being altered. And my biggest concern is also this roof tile that was added. It's actually heavier than clay tile two-piece. I mean, they could get a clay tile that is lighter, but in order to make this house a true Spanish revival, this tile doesn't work. I think it needs to be changed to a clay tile. And this is my gut feeling. And if you really want to keep this hacienda, the Spanish flavor with the courtyard, it needs to go back to that. And you're right, Ms. Malikian, these windows, aluminum clad, are hard. You're not going to get the same recessedness as a wood window. And the existing house has wood windows. And I prefer to go back to the wood windows, in my opinion.
But
some of which have been tossed out and replaced with this wood-clad window that we're proposing, or is being proposed?
Well,
I don't know whether they've been replaced or not.
They're just purchased and sitting at the side.
That's something you could maybe ask the applicants.
Well, if the chair wants to open the hearing, but okay. You were talking, I'm sorry.
That's okay. But those are my thoughts. I mean, it's an improvement. The house isn't dilapidated. I mean, it's in bad shape and needs a lot of work to bring it up to par. But we got to look at the whole neighborhood as a context. I mean, mostly Spanish, mostly one story. And I appreciate the fact that this house has gone into that direction, doing a one story, because I'm very sensitive. I mean, in a neighborhood, although there's some two-story conditions there, but they're not massive. So this is the right direction of the design. But my concern is the entry being eliminated and providing it a two-piece tile on the roof. And I can live with the aluminum-clad windows, but those are my concerns. And do you want me to open up? Anybody has a question?
Yeah, I mean, let's ask him about the
Mr.
windows.
Jungosian, can you, Mr. Vartan?
About the tiles, we go with that one, double tiles. Actually, we have a garage right now, and it has a gable roof, and we have to change that too. And we're talking a lot of financial, burden. I mean, because 95% of the tiles are there, so we like to reuse it back.
But 95% of the tiles of the existing roof are there.
There is a places we can get the exactly same tile, actually. There's a salvage, places, I mean, we can get the exactly same tile and keep the color exactly same. I mean, if changing whole roof tile, we have to change a garage roof too. It's a huge garage area and a lot of tile work to do. About the wall.
I'm sorry, Vartan, can I interrupt for a second? The garage has the same tile that's piled up?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
You can see even in the picture.
I was trying to.
Yeah.
And the windows? Windows,
unfortunately, they purchased already.
Okay, but how much of that? Is it the entire house, that whatever is
We're changing the
proposed?
entire house.
No.
How many windows are purchased?
How many windows do you have on site?
I would say the new addition we are making, we looks like relocating the window forward. I mean, can I show you on the plan? I mean, the same.
I just
I
need
guess
to know how many.
what's the difference between the project that was approved, the number of windows that were approved in the project a year and a half ago, and the number of windows that are proposed in the project now. And I think the difference is the number of windows that they still need to purchase. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and from prior testimony or comment, it was, sorry.
Testimony. We like a new approach here.
I like that. You had stated that this is the part that's been added, and then the guest house. So I don't know if this was part of it, but I'm assuming there's maybe one or two windows on the back side. They're in the plans. So how many windows would you say?
Well, actually, we are not adding any window. We're just relocating the window in the location. The master bedroom window that was there, so we're pushing out.
That was there that had been purchased a year and a half ago. You're relocating from the then proposed design to the new proposed design.
Same thing. It's a windows are coming forward.
You're stretching it out.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
And those windows that you're relocating, are they nail-on windows or are they block windows?
It's going to be like a brand new construction type of window. It's block windows. It's not retrofit windows.
No, is it nail-on or blocked? I mean, does it have flanges on the side,
Right.
so it's going to get on the wall and you're going to nail it on, or is it
Yes.
going to be opening and you're going to put it into the opening?
No. We're going to just nail it.
So is there going to be a
We're going
recess?
to remove the stucco wherever we are not touching. Actually, we remove already. So we're going to put the windows and after make a new stucco.
I think the whole concern is about the window being flush with the stucco, or is it going to be recess? Is that the... Recess. It's recess. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, anything else you may want to add?
Tough time, my friend, checking that out.
Any other questions, or sure? I'm going to close the public hearing again, and we'll start with you.
Well, I mean, I think we've already said, but I think the main goal for us to make sure we maintain the authenticity of the original architecture. What I've just found out about the windows, it's, in my experience, in my opinion, it's going to be very difficult for them to follow what's there. It's almost impossible, but they're saying it's going to be recessed and it's going to be plaster is going to come. It's just not, they can't do that unless they've
Build the wall out?
They either build the wall out or they reframe the windows smaller with the smaller framing so that the wall, the nail-on gets pushed in a bit, and then so the stucco comes and dies against that. So without having that kind of a condition, it's going to be almost impossible. So if that's what they're going to do, and that's what, it's not in the plan. So we're guessing what they're doing, but the idea is that in the past we haven't accepted drawings. We haven't accepted drawings. We've wanted them to bring these drawings with the details, proper information, so that when we're approving it, we know what we're getting. The way it is, it's not. So my biggest issue right now is the front, that wall. So
would you like me to read all the conditions that?
I had a couple of questions before you do that.
Okay.
Chimney caps, what are we doing to that? The vents, because the front chimney has a treatment. Are we going to carry that treatment on the other chimneys?
Well, I guess you got to open it again and ask.
Sorry.
Should we go through the conditions?
Yeah, go ahead, go through the condition.
If we have
Go
some
through.
outstanding
No problem.
questions,
Go ahead.
we could address them.
All right. Let me start with the ones that were in the staff report. Simplify the design of the gate located on the front elevation of the residence. Probably modify that since it appears that most of y'all like the design there now, but there was some more discussion on the transparency.
Yeah, the backing of the panel.
Okay. So actually, why don't I eliminate that condition?
I think what we've indicated is eliminate the brick and use a more conducive material to the Spanish style, and then try to alleviate the bulkiness of the wall, and so get rid of the.
He's talking about the gate, though.
I was talking about the gate.
Oh,
yeah.
We're talking
Sorry.
about the overall.
Yeah.
But it
I was
all
just-
works together.
Yeah. The gate design shall be more transparent. Does that work for you? So they can keep the same sort of design, but they will need to increase the transparency of what's up there.
I think there was also a request to remove the pointy aspects on the.
No, that was on
That was on the new design. Yeah.
Oh.
That was on the new design.
May I suggest some language for that condition?
Of course you can.
Redesign the wall and the gate in a cohesive Spanish style by creating more transparency, period.
Hold on a second. Redesign the wall and the gate to a more cohesive Spanish style?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
By creating more transparency, period. Brick should not be used. Brick should be replaced with a more typical Spanish material.
Stucco.
Stucco. Plaster.
Still have that banding, the raised part, but make it stucco.
Okay, brick shall be replaced with stucco. Okay.
Would that also include removing the pilasters?
Well,
I assume.
there was some of that discussion. But I think it just needs to be holistically reconsidered, and they need to bring some drawings that depict that entire wall and fence holistically. That's it. And it just needs to be considered. Yes.
Are you suggesting a redesign?
Well, no, not a
board?
redesign of the project, just that condition is going to basically dictate that they redesign the wall and the gate, and they really work hand in hand because they're the same component.
When we're talking about, when you say gate, are we referring to both the gate to
Wall
the
and
driveway
the-
and the
And
gate
the-
into the
yes.
porch?
Yes, all the gates.
And there's also a similar gate to the side yard.
Yeah.
Correct.
So
All
when we say
three,
gate,
yes.
it's all three gates.
A similar design language needs to be incorporated to all those gates, everything in the front.
Okay. Second condition is reduce the size of the lawn area in the front yard and eliminate the St. Augustine in favor of buffalo grass.
That stays.
That stays? Okay.
That's what.
There were also some.
I'm sorry. I would find that buffalo grass is approximately the same, in my opinion, design-wise, as St. Augustine. I think that doesn't really do much from perspective. My sole recommendation on that was to use mature plants instead of saplings or 1 gallon or half-gallon plants on landscaping, and try to use drought-tolerant plants.
In front of the wall.
In front of the wall.
In front of the wall.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
I did not comment on replacing.
What I heard.
Right, that was a condition in the staff report.
Yes, I understand.
So are you fine with the eliminate St. Augustine in favor of buffalo grass?
There's no grass there now.
Yeah,
there
it's
just regular soft
on the plants.
More
yes.
of a succulent, and the ground covers, I would go with more of a gravel and other kind of a.
There's grass proposed in the front yard now.
Sounds like the condition.
You get fines from Water and Power. They give you incentive to remove grass, and now we're proposing grass to be placed on.
I looked in the I forget if it was Be Waterwise or the other reference, and buffalo grass is they consider it drought tolerant.
So can we make it buffalo grass for other drought tolerant options?
Sure.
At homeowners.
I think, this architecture, I think you want to have more of a desert and more of
gravel, more
cacti, and
more of the
other,
indigenous kind of planning.
I mean, I think that's what I would.
Can I just ask if they have children? Is cacti, a good.
Well, we're not talking about inside, and we're talking about on the outside. I don't know where the grass is being.
Well, do you want me to modify the condition and basically say eliminate all grass in the front yard? Proposed drought tolerant?
No, I don't think so, because it changed the streetscape. That's it.
Refer to Water and Power and get the.
Why don't we say rethink
we got
the
letters
front? Why don't we say rethink the front landscape, the front setback landscape, per drought tolerant recommendation?
That would be fine.
Yeah.
Then they could work with staff, because they got to work with you on a slew of items, anyways.
Would the rest of the board be favorable to Mr. Charkitian's suggestion that they plant more mature plantings in front of the wall to help mitigate that?
Right, I hadn't gotten to those conditions yet. I was going to read them
That's
after
gonna
we
be an
sort of
extra one.
fleshed
Got it.
out. Okay, so, I'm sorry, can we start? Can you read that, or state that condition again?
Redesign the front setback landscaping to be more in line with drought-tolerant recommendations and guidelines.
Okay.
Well said.
Yeah. And I'm not going to repeat it one more time.
What was that first question? Because I'm not understanding it.
Roger, can you revisit or tell us the first condition again?
To simplify the design of the gates located on the front elevation? Or well, that was the first condition.
Okay, what about the wall condition? Is that the condition you have a question?
The one that you stated so eloquently. The new one.
Yes.
The new improved one. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Redesign the wall and the gate to be a more cohesive Spanish style by creating more transparency. Brick shall be replaced with stucco.
For considerations in regards to this, should we say now or wait until the end? Because I have a consideration to give.
Why don't you all discuss that now?
Okay.
So that we can.
Yeah, go ahead.
I thought there was consensus that the design as depicted here was a decent renditioning style, but the concern was the transparency.
Right.
So my suggestion would be remove the wood backing for the front door
Okay.
And from a design perspective, that gives you a view of the Spanish character, the entryway, what's left of that. And then from a privacy perspective, I would support them using the wood backing because I understand with the 3 kids that concern.
Okay.
And as far as the side gate, I think it's minimal. And it would be 2 wood panels, 1 without. I think it would flow.
And you're talking just about the gate as opposed to the wall.
The entry gate. The entry gate.
The brick, I agree with you. No brick, stucco, we're fine there.
Well, in essence, I guess what we're trying to avoid is prescribing too much and giving the architect some freedom to holistically reconsider the front wall and entry system and gates in such a fashion where they have some creative abilities to work with staff. If we're prescribing too specifically, it does hamper some design freedom, and that's why we're trying to give them some flexibility to work with the exact design.
Sure.
So the question that I had was that on the plans it says 5-foot wall. The question is the 5-foot wall the wall or the pilasters?
The wall is 5 feet, the pilasters are 6.
6, okay.
According to the plans.
Okay. So, consideration, and this is something that we can agree. Considering lowering the wall and the gate, or moving the wall and the gate to be in line with the portion of the house, that the narrower portion of the house, right at the corner. These are considerations, in my opinion.
Removing the wall to where?
Basically, flushing it with
Flush,
this.
so all the way
So
back.
it's flush
so
with the
that
front,
courtyard
the
is
front,
Right.
this front gable
So it's
facade.
it's that or lowering the wall. These are considerations, they're not conditions, but I think it would definitely, if they're looking to enhance the look and be able to address some of the design.
I see what you're saying. I think that by removing the 2 layers of brick and going with just stucco, you'd get that effect anyway. You get a lowering of at least, maybe 6 inches.
But they're not going to lower it, they're just going to remove the material, so the wall's still going to stay the same.
Well, when I went to the site, the brick's not there. So it would, and here the brick would be on top of the block, correct? So I'm assuming that by not having the brick.
Yeah, these are considerations.
I suppose another consideration might be
I think
that
we're
you guys
going
tend to
to
take
carry
the...
away with
detail.
I think we need to
Okay.
Step back a bit.
we'll have to keep in mind this wall was permitted.
Yes.
And we'll just soften it up with the landscaping suggestion, removing the brick. And I would condition it saying the wall should not exceed 5 feet and the pilaster should not exceed whatever, 6 feet. So if it's higher, then they got to shave it. But I would,
So are we eliminating that potential consideration?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right, so we've got those 2 conditions. The third one from the staff report is 2-piece tile shall be used on the roof of the main house and guest house.
how do you feel about that?
It would have been nice to see the material, but yeah, I'm fine with it.
Fine with the existing.
I'm fine with the existing. I think it's an improvement on the composite shingle that's all over the neighborhood.
Okay.
To use this material that's on
I'm
the house.
fine with it.
So we're fine with that.
To be clear,
So
Roger,
eliminate that.
yeah,
Eliminate that condition.
they're reuse the existing tile.
Reuse the existing.
Yeah,
Stacked
actually-
up in
Addition
this.
has to match it.
I'm sorry, reuse existing tile. Any new tile shall match existing. Okay. And then the last condition from the staff report was wood-clad aluminum windows shall be installed throughout the house and recessed in the facade of the house. Window details shall be submitted for staff to approve and match existing conditions.
No, let's add 3-inch recess minimum.
I'm sorry.
The recess.
Okay.
Let's make sure it has a
and shall be...
Well, I don't want to give inches because whatever it's existing should match existing.
Well, whatever the existing condition is, can we verify that?
I'm sorry.
Can we verify what the recess of the windows are and match existing recess?
Sure,
Okay.
yeah.
There was also a suggestion that the window beams be dark brown and the window frames be a Merlot or a dark green.
Well, that was before I found out the windows had been ordered, and most of them exist, in which case they're already this copperish color. So I would suggest not painting the same color and creating some contrast between the existing windows and the proposed beams.
Including the rafters, I'm assuming.
Correct. The rafters and the rafter tails.
I had written a potential condition, provide color contrast between heavy beams and windows.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Now we'll go on to the conditions that I wrote down from you all. Restudy the roof design to reduce the roof height, to reduce the impact on the neighborhood and be consistent with the existing house.
Mr. Simonian, how do you feel about that?
It was kind of hard for me to tell how much of the rear has been framed. I know a portion had been framed from the previous proposal. And so, do you have an exact answer to that?
I don't have an exact answer, no. I don't know how much has been framed.
Well,
As you said, it was permitted.
Sorry, we've closed it. We need to come to a decision.
I did make that comment, but overall, I think it was kind of even meant to be more of a consideration as well. So, in light of that, why don't we put that one aside until the end?
Okay.
And then revisit it if we have to.
Okay. The next one, give additional thought to lighting and vents within the facade of the house.
That's a good one. Just to be more in line with the Spanish style, the ornamental lighting, the ornamental metalwork, lighting, and also vents should be more in line with the Spanish style.
You're talking about
You
the
said-
gable vents and things like that,
Correct.
right? Okay.
You said metalwork?
Any ornamental ironwork, lighting, and roof venting
Okay.
should be in line with the Spanish design.
Okay.
Do you concur?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The next one was remove the bricks on the wall and provide a different cap material.
We've already
discussed that.
And
We've covered that.
beat it to death.
yeah. I'm trying to make sure I have that written somewhere.
I think that's all I had.
One thing we missed is the gutters and down, if there are any gutters and downspouts.
There will be. Got it.
And that, and also, I hate to bring this up, it's usually you bring it up as the trash.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
There was also the comment about the chimney caps.
Chimney cap, yeah. The chimney cap to be consistent
Make
with
sure
the
you have
Mr.
a
Mardian's
location
favorite
for
topic.
Well, yeah, I'm not done
Probably
with everything
put it in the
yet,
workshop
so-
in the back or something like
Yeah.
that, so that as long as they don't put it outside in the front.
The next one was plant mature vegetation in front of the wall.
We've already discussed that.
We've already,
Right, I'm just going
Yeah.
down.
yeah.
So, redesign the gate to be more transparent. We've got eliminate pilasters and bricks. Mr. Mardian, you had something. You were a little bit concerned about the entry porch addition.
I was concerned, but, I'll go with what
Okay.
my colleagues.
Okay.
We're
but
fine.
We're fine.
Preferring the wood windows.
I think the
I think we've discussed, we'll just go with the aluminum clad. We want to make sure that it's recessed
To match existing.
to match
Okay.
existing.
I
Okay.
think the porch gate is going to be really helpful if we make that transparent. Or
Yeah,
even made that.
The porch gate needs to be transparent, the backing needs to be removed. There's,
Okay, we want to keep that as a definitive
condition.
Okay, okay. Chimney cap shall be consistent.
With the
chimney cap
style?
With the Spanish style, are they touching the existing chimney? Because I saw a picture somewhere, or is it one of the older pictures that had some treatment on top?
Yeah, there's like a little birdhouse type.
Yeah, we need to make it consistent with the other one.
Okay.
The new one should match this one too.
Okay. I believe that was it.
So the last item that's left that Mr. Malakian
Roof
had brought up
design.
was the downspouts and gutters.
Yeah, I just don't know if they're doing any gutters.
They're required to have it, so.
So I would,
So the architect to provide some details to staff.
yeah, I mean,
I would maybe phrase that condition to be that gutters and downspouts should be consistent with the Spanish style, similar to your comment about the ironwork.
See, everybody's learning from you now.
Okay.
All right, I'll take a motion. Are you ready for a motion?
I am, thanks.
All right.
I'll move to approve the project with those conditions.
A second.
Roll call, please.
I'm sorry, who seconded the motion? Okay, great.
I figured I'd do it on the first time.
Okay, a motion was made to approve the project with conditions. This will be a roll call. Mr. Simonian?
Yes.
Mr. Charchian?
Yes.
Mr. Malikian?
Yes.
Mr. Mardian?
Yes.
Okay, great. Motion carries 4-0.
All right. Good luck.
I think that's all we have for tonight.
Okay.
I'll take a motion to adjourn.
congratulations.
Yeah. We broke you in for 4 hours?